here it is, the r/Am I the Jerk? Video compilation. From cheating, hating and revenge, to spoiled Karens and yeeting kittens. Yeah, it only gets worse. Sit back and relax. Oh, and let the like button bring your hot cocoa.
Am I the jerk for laughing when my ex's wife complained to me? So, my ex cheated on me with his current wife. That was 5 years ago. Ex and I share 3 sons who are 11, 10, and 8. Ex's wife has a daughter and a son with her ex, who she also cheated on with my ex. The two of them have said it all, from it was meant to be, to how great it is because the kids all have a bigger and happier family, blah blah blah. I'm over it, in some ways. There's very much a sting that the affair partner in my marriage gets to call herself my kid's stepmom. But I'm not all that sorry that my ex is gone. The man slept with her, behind my back for 18 months, before her husband and I found out. I'm civil. Oh well, when the kids are around. I ignore them. When the kids aren't around. This whole thing happened over ex's parents. They were disgusted with him for cheating. Mother-in-law told him that he destroyed his kids' foundation, that leaving a spouse is never easy and divorce is hard, for kids anyway. But when you add conflict in the way of cheating, you take something from a child that they can rarely ever get back. And that's parents who can still care about each other and want the best for each other, despite not being together. They stayed very close with me and haven't welcomed ex's wife at all. Nor have they been involved with ex's life since, really, or his stepkids. It bothers her a lot. My youngest son won an award in school a couple of weeks ago. Ex and his wife were there. So was I. Ex's wife ended up coming up to complain to me, because both mine and ex's parents showed up briefly, spoke to my son, then to me, and left. She was saying how unfair it was, how her kids don't understand why ex's family have nothing to do with them, and why they never see them, but they know my kids don't have a relationship. She said ex's family love me. It hurts her feelings to not feel good enough. I'll be honest, I rolled my eyes first, but then I laughed, because she seemed to expect sympathy or help. From me, laughing at her pissed her off. I've heard from her and my ex since that I was rude. I should care about the kids at least. And I'm not thinking of my kids when I keep bad blood between us and laugh at her suffering. One part of me doesn't care and believes I'm fine since my kids couldn't see it. Another part of me wonders if I was a jerk to laugh at her. So, am I the jerk? Please let me know.
Am I the jerk for telling my half-sister I don't think she's going to make it through med school, after she said my doctorate means nothing? I, 31-year-old female, have a half-sister Sharon, 25-year-old female. Sharon and I were never super close as I spent most of my time with my dad. And my mum, stepdad and Sharon were a proper family while I just became the other kid. I didn't mind much because, again, I preferred staying with my dad anyway, but he sadly passed when I was 16. I'm kind of low contact with my family now, but I usually get invited to family events and see them there, and we talk and message occasionally. Also, I have a doctorate, so my title is doctor, important to the issue. There was a big party last night for Sharon recently getting into med school. It was at a restaurant, and they replaced cards with everyone's names on the tables. They all said title and full name. I noticed my card said Miss, but I didn't say anything then. Later, when I was talking to Sharon, I just said, "Oh, by the way, I think you might have messed up my card. I'm doctor, not miss." Sharon said I'm not a real doctor, to which I replied I have a doctorate, so I also go by doctor. She then said that it's not really the same thing. I said again, people who have doctorates are also referred to as doctor, even if they're not in the medical field. Sharon then said I was undermining her achievement, and med school is a lot harder, so my doctorate means nothing. I got mad at her constant jabbing, so I told her, if you seriously think calling someone else doctor is undermining your achievement, I don't think you're going to make it through med school. She sort of huffed and left to talk to someone else. I assume she must have told my mum and stepdad about it, because at the end of the night they came up to me and said, I was really rude to Sharon and I didn't need to be jealous. I'm not, but okay. I was just trying to defend myself, but maybe I went too far. Oh well. So, am I the jerk?
Would I be the jerk for suing my boyfriend for not paying my medical bills? I, 21-year-old female, have been with my boyfriend, 24-year-old male, for 4 years. We're both in college and don't have a lot of money altogether because of that. I have more money saved up, but that's only for college, so I don't really even consider that money that I have, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely allergic to peanuts, and it's been this way my whole life. I was told even the smallest speck could kill me. I've been very careful, and in my entire life I've only had to use my EpiPen twice. My boyfriend knows this, yet he continues to eat peanut products, but I just make sure not to kiss him when he has something peanut that day, he washes, etc. Personally, I never liked that he wouldn't just stop, because I feel like he's putting me in danger, but I also couldn't force him to stop either, and it has worked for the past 4 years. What happened? So he came over into my dorm, and we were just hanging out, and he kissed me, and a couple of minutes later, I could feel my throat swelling and my lips getting bigger. I instantly knew that I was having an allergic reaction. I grabbed my EpiPen and shot it into my leg and told my boyfriend to take me to the ER. Even with the EpiPen, I was struggling and nearly passing out. My boyfriend was really freaking out too. Once I got to the ER, I was taken in, and the last thing I remember was passing out in the wheelchair. I woke up, and my reaction was down, and I was having the side effects of the adrenaline, but overall, okay. I got my phone out, and my phone was blown up, with apologies on how he forgot he ate a Reese's cup, and he was so sorry, and to please forgive him. Once I finally got home and settled down, my dad picked me up. I told my boyfriend he should be responsible for my medical bill and a new EpiPen, the other one my school has. And he was telling me he has no money and he can't, and that I have more money than him anyways, etc. I was pretty peeved off at him because he just nearly killed me, and now he won't even take responsibility for my medical bills. Well, word got out to his family, and I received rude texts from his mom saying it's my allergy, so I should have to pay the medical bill. And I was the one that's irresponsible. I got mad and texted my boyfriend, saying it was dumb to bring his mom into this, then proceeded to say, if he doesn't, I'm going to take him to small claims court because I don't have an extra $5,000 to spare for a medical bill. He got very upset, and I'm pretty sure our relationship is over now. I've gotten a lot more text from his mom now and from his sisters, and I'm choosing to ignore them. My parents agree with me that I should go and do that, but I'm just not sure. So, would I be the jerk?
Am I the jerk for ruining Christmas by not taking kindly to my brother-in-law's joke? My brother-in-law's front porch is poorly made and not to code. He's been replacing pieces of it for years. A rotted board here, a handrail there. Yesterday, I dropped off a package at their house while they were out. On my way down, I went through one of the stairs. Basically, the end of the board was rotted out and it no longer had any support on one side, so it basically just turned into a seesaw. My left leg went straight down and hit the ground, so I was kind of trapped in a weird position as I tumbled forward. I scraped up my leg with some decent gouges from the splintered wood. The end result is that my leg was cut and bleeding, my pants were torn, and I strained something in my upper back and shoulder. Not life-threatening to be sure. I sent them a text when it happened. An hour or two later, I get a text that he and my sister-in-law couldn't stop laughing when they checked their doorbell cam. I responded it wouldn't have been as funny if it was either of their elderly parents, one of their kids, or any of the delivery people who bring stuff to their home-based business. At no point did he apologize or offer to pay for my pants. I did get a "You okay there?" text with the emoji with a head bandage. Today I get a "How are you feeling?" text. I said a little sore, but nothing that would stop me from helping you tear down that porch and rebuilding it safely. You know, with proper stringers, risers, and treads. His response, "I'll be replacing the board today. Expect a bill in your mailbox, lumbering cheap." My response was, "Good. When you stop by, bring your insurance info so I can make a claim." Later today, my wife gets a call from her brother, asking if I was actually going to file a lawsuit or insurance claim, and how he let his homeowner's insurance lapse because money was tight. When my wife told them that we weren't actually going to file a lawsuit, he got even madder because he was really stressed out for a couple of hours, and how he doesn't want us to come by on Christmas. Their family was hosting this year, because we might stub our toe and sue. Wife wants me to attempt to mend fences so as to not ruin Christmas. I suggested that she and I talk about it on Wednesday so we can get some perspective. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for reminding my uncle that my sister is an engineer? My uncle Dwayne is a realtor, and he was telling everyone how smart he is and how he makes the best money in the family. He was bragging over a Memorial Day weekend at a cookout. I told him my half-sister Jenny is a computer engineer and, in fact, makes more than him. He started saying he owns his own home. We get into it because I said my sister owns 2 homes, a townhouse in San Francisco and another in Austin, Texas. He was getting angry at me saying it's not the same thing and here we get more bang for our buck. I told him he's still not the smartest or wealthiest person in the family, though. Oh, my uncle got super pissed at me and yelled at me saying I should be better behaved, and tried to get my dad into the argument, and my dad didn't even acknowledge my uncle. My grandma is so angry at my dad and I, saying she'll never invite us over again, or even get me another gift for Christmas or my birthday. I told her that's fine, my sister can afford to get me one from all of my dad's side of the family, because we're tight. My grandma and everyone stopped following me on Instagram, saying I'm a jerk, but I don't think I did much wrong.
Am I the jerk for walking out of a wedding I was supposed to host? I, 24-year-old female, have been hosting events since I was 18. I sometimes do it with pay, but most of the time I just do it because it's fun. I would usually offer to host events for close friends and family for free. I jokingly ask them to pay me with good food and a good time. And most of the time, that's the case. Daisy, 25-year-old female, used to be a good friend of mine, but now we're not that close anymore. A few weeks ago, I heard from one of my best friends that Daisy had been telling people that I would be the host at her sister's wedding reception. She didn't ask me about it up until 2 weeks ago. I wanted to say no, but I'm actually really close with her family, and I wanted to do them this favor. I knew her sister was having a small wedding, and they wanted to stay under a certain budget. Of course, I wouldn't be paid for this event, but it didn't matter. I sent them the program for approval, but never heard back from them until a day before the wedding. All she said was, "Oh yeah, it was okay," without saying anything else. I felt a little worried about the whole event, but I decided to push through because I'd already agreed. The day of the wedding comes, and Daisy told me to not come to the church and just go straight to the reception venue. I did. And when I arrived, I was immediately being yelled at by the groom's family. From what I was told, they were the groom's aunts. They criticized basically everything about me and told me that I should have dressed better. And now, all of their wedding photos would be ruined thanks to me. I was wearing a dress pre-approved by the bride and had just plain makeup. Nothing too crazy, since I was just a host. I just lowered my head and didn't say much. I waited until Daisy and her family would arrive. When they did, before I got a chance to tell her what had happened, the groom's family chimed in and complained about, verbatim, how cheap-looking the host they hired was. I expected Daisy to defend me, but she shrugged and said, "The other host we hired canceled on us last minute. Please bear with her. I promise she won't be in the pictures." Wow. My jaw dropped when I heard her say that. She ushered all the other guests inside the reception area and left me outside. In my anger, I left the venue without telling anyone. Daisy kept calling me a few minutes after I left, but I didn't answer. A day later, and my phone was being blown up by texts and calls from both the bride and the groom's family, calling me all sorts of names for leaving the event without notice. Now I'm starting to feel bad about what I did. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for not wanting to go to my sister's wedding? My sister's getting married next month. My husband and I were both planning on going, but when we got the invitation, it was only for me. When I called my sister and asked about it, she said my husband was, of course, fine to come, but she requested that he not be in any family photos. My husband's in a wheelchair. I've been married to him for 8 years. He's been in a wheelchair since he was 16, and my family has always ever known him to be in his chair. Apparently, my sister doesn't want him in any of her wedding photos because she's afraid that he'll take attention away from her, because he's different. She justifies this by saying, when people come over and see our family photo, they always ask about him, because he's the only one that's in a wheelchair, so he stands out. She says she wants to be the main focus in her photos. I was livid. I went off on her and told her she was being a selfish bridezilla. I told her we wouldn't be coming. I've been getting calls from parents and relatives telling me I need to apologise to my sister because now she's upset. I'm angry at them for thinking it's okay to leave my husband out of family photos because of his disability. My husband hates being a burden on people, and he says he's fine with not being in the photos, which made me even angrier because now he feels bad about himself for something I feel is unwarranted. Am I the jerk if I don't support my sister's big day because of this? My husband says we need to be there for family, even if he can't be in the photos. My family says I need to apologise, but I feel like this is an issue I need to fight for. Am I wrong? Am I the jerk for getting frustrated with my boyfriend, for implying I don't deserve to make the money I make? I'm a 28-year-old woman, and I got really lucky to get the job I have right now. I studied electrical and computer engineering in college, and job hopped 4 times. Each time I switched jobs, I negotiated really hard for pay and benefits. I'm making $160,000 now, working remotely, and living in a very low cost of living area. It's a really nice gig, and I recognise I'm extremely lucky to have interests that line up with a super well-paying industry, and super lucky to have been able to go to college at all. But despite that, I feel like I did work to deserve it somewhat. College was super demanding and difficult. My first few jobs had grueling schedules, and I feel like I'm being paid more for the knowledge I built over all that time. But still, I have to admit, it's pretty cushy. I never work over 40 hours a week. My co-workers never contact me about work outside of my 9 to 5. I get paid a stupid good amount of money for it, and I have 2 months vacation time. So, on to the conflict. My boyfriend used to work outside the home. He's an IT admin at a large company, but because of the pandemic, his job became partially remote. So we're working out of the same house, and I think he sees how different our jobs and pay are. He makes $65,000 a year and works a lot longer hours. He usually starts his day at 7 or 8 a.m. and works till 6 or 7 p.m. He more often has to work weekends to do IT stuff, and he's on call for emergencies with his personal phone. And it seems like they're having emergencies every week. So, since we've been working from home together, he makes comments about it occasionally, like, must be nice, kind of things. Recently, he's gotten more frustrated with me, though. Yesterday, I had a bad headache, so I told my boss that I was going to be away from my desk for a while, since I wasn't feeling well. I blocked out a 2-hour meeting on my calendar, so people wouldn't try and reach me, and took a nap. My boyfriend saw me napping during work and said, "They're really paying you to sleep, huh?" I snapped at him, saying that they were paying me for my skills, and that I didn't care for the way he'd been talking about my job. He said something petty about my skills at napping and shooting the poop on Zoom, and how that's definitely worth 6 figures. And I got really irritated and said that just because he was underpaid doesn't mean that he could call me overpaid. If he was mad, he should go take that out on his boss, not me. He said that I was being ridiculous. He'd be in the poop at work if he did that. I said maybe he needs to find a better job if his boss isn't ready to talk money. He called me privileged and out of touch and said that it isn't that easy to just go find a better job. I said that if you don't try, you're never going to know. He got irritated and stormed out. Am I the jerk for how I talk to my boyfriend about work?
Am I the jerk for telling my roommate his autism isn't my problem? 19-year-old male. I took a summer internship program. There's 5 of us in the house. Adam, between 19 to 25, I'm not entirely sure, has been difficult to live with. He said he's autistic and is on the same internship as me. Adam refuses to pick up after himself and tells everyone it's because he hates touching gross things, so he doesn't do any trash or anything he considers gross. Last week he tried to get me in trouble at work because he said I was discriminating against him at home. Our HR told him that it's not his problem. My roommates and I told Adam he has to chip in with bills and cleaning, and Adam refused. We stopped doing any of his chores and piling his dirty dishes and trash outside of his bedroom door. He took a picture and showed both HR again and our landlord. His mother showed up, flew out to clean up after him. She said she's staying for the rest of the summer, and we told the landlord, and he said she couldn't, and she asked to pay. We got into a huge fight with Adam's mom, and she took him home. Adam's still responsible for his summer lease, and the landlord threatened to put an eviction notice on Adam's credit report. Adam's mom called the internship and tried to get me fired, and tried to have us removed from the lease because we didn't give reasonable accommodations to her son. I don't think we're jerks, and we expected that Adam had to do his chores, and it wasn't our fault that he broke the lease. His mom keeps saying she's going to sue us, the landlord, and our company for not making reasonable accommodations for Adam. But we didn't bully him and just wanted him to do his dishes and pick up his trash. Admittedly, I feel kind of bad for Adam in a way, because very clearly I'm assuming this was going to be an experiment, and it very clearly did not work at all.
Am I the jerk for refusing to stop having girls' night-ins, just because my boyfriend thinks it's wrong? Hi, so I've been seeing this guy, Will, 27-year-old male, for months now. He's so sweet and funny and creative. Fun fact, he drives 2 cars that he adjusted/fixed on his own. We don't live together, but we do meet at my place every weekend. He called and asked what we'll be doing on Friday, and I said I wanted to host a GNI since it was my turn. He asked what the heck was a GNI. I said a girls' night in, and he got quiet, then asked if I was being serious. I was confused as he started talking about how outdated and so 1950s those events are, and said that I should stop promoting and advocating for those events as they are so toxic and flat out a reek of misogyny. I was shocked by his long rant, but he said that that was his honest opinion. I told him regardless, I still planned to host the event after he tried talking me out of it and suggested we go out together. He threw a fit after he suggested bringing his guy friends to join us, and I refused since this is not how GNIs work. He called me a sexist and misogynistic for having a girls' night in and making it so obvious instead of being ashamed of myself. He said that my mentality will cause me issues in the future, especially if I behave like that in a professional work setting. Let me tell you, I was blown away by how he got so worked up like that over me, just missing my girls and wanting to spend time with them. We argued some more, and he hung up on me after I said I will not stop hosting or being part of GNIs no matter what he says about it. I tried to call and apologise for lashing out later, but he sent a text saying he was hurt by how I handled our small disagreement and needs time to process what he just found out about my personality. This hurt me, but my friendship and the bond I share with my girlfriends is huge. And I don't want to risk the years of friendships by no longer being part of our bonding activities. Am I the jerk for making this my hill to die on, like he says?
Royal AI.
Am I the jerk for asking Mom to leave after she insulted my kitten? So last year, my beloved Eddie cat passed away at the age of 14 after a lengthy illness. I was devastated as I had raised her since she was a newborn kitten, and her mommy abandoned her. I'm talking about, literally having to sneak her into high school with me to be able to bottle feed her. I've been living alone for a year, and it's been kind of lonely. So I've slowly gotten to the point where I felt I was ready to adopt another cat. After reaching out to the Maine Rescues, I found 2 brothers who I fell in love with the moment I saw their pictures. I ended up naming them Bucky and Steve after the 2 main characters from the Captain America movie comic franchise. The thing about Steve is he was born bob-tailed, which means just like a bobcat, he was born without a tail. He has a little nub, which kind of resembles a rabbit tail. My mom came over today to meet both my new boys, and from the moment she saw Steve, the comments just started coming about how freaky his nub looks and how it's not normal. I was really annoyed, but he's a kitten, so it's not like he understands. He's being insulted. What really upset me and led me to kick her out is when Steve climbed into her lap and attempted to curl up in it. Stevie is the more shy of the 2 kittens, so he often hides or takes longer to become comfortable with unknown people and situations, but he loves to cuddle up in people's laps once he feels safe. He had just settled into her lap and was contentedly purring when she roughly picked him up, and I don't even know how to describe it. She didn't exactly throw him to the other end of the couch, but she didn't exactly place him there either. That's when I lost my cool and told her that she was a guest, and my home was now Steve's home, and if she couldn't respect him, she needed to leave. She scoffed and didn't take it seriously, so I doubled down and was like, I'm 100% serious. Leave my house now. She started yelling that she raised me and how disrespectful I was being, all because of a cat. I don't know. I just feel like she was being unnecessarily mean to an innocent animal just because he looked different. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for firing a girl? I'm a manager at a small business. It's just me, the owner, and another person who's my employee. The owner usually handles the checks on a certain day. We still haven't set up direct deposits yet because they have limits with their banks. The day the checks were supposed to go out, the owner's father had to be rushed to the hospital, and it was so bad that we didn't think he would make it. This resulted in our checks being 2 days late. I understand that it was inexcusable and unprofessional. However, it was something out of the owner's hands. The girl, however, was up in arms, angry and calling the owner multiple times about her check, while this father lay dying. He answered her the first time, then told me to handle it, and I explained everything to her. However, she still kept calling the owner. I get that we all need money, but in my opinion, it's just tasteless to demand a man leave his dying father's side just so you can get your check on time. She was our opener on Monday, and she was late and not even in uniform. I told her that being late, especially when the store opens at 7 a.m. and she's the opener, is inexcusable barring an extenuating circumstance, and she went on a very long and drawn-out rant about her check. I informed her that I don't have her check, and she'll get it once the owner comes later that day. And my job is to ensure that she's doing her job, and coming late and not in our standard uniform is not our image. And she kept deflecting and demanding to speak to the owner whose father is on his deathbed. I fired her for a few reasons, but the last nail in the coffin was her blatant disrespect for the owner and myself. I did not come to argue with her, however she was ready to battle. I still feel guilty about it, but I honestly don't know what else I could have done. We did get her check as soon as the owner got there, but I didn't think she was a good fit for a few reasons, and let her know that we won't be needing her anymore. So Reddit, did I do something wrong?
Am I the jerk for outing my sister to her kids? Well, her kids were having a sleepover. We've always had this picture of my family up from when we were really young, and this was the first time her kids ever asked about it. She's also seen the picture and never commented on it. They asked who she was in the picture. My sister started transitioning in high school, so I didn't really think of her as trans. Like, I know she wasn't always a woman, but old pictures of her are just pictures of her to me, and I sort of assume people know, and it's not a big dark secret. Naturally, I responded honestly. I told them that was their mum. I tried to explain that she was a boy, but now she's not, and her son thought it was funny, but it made her daughter really upset. I tried to explain that she was a boy, but now she's not, and her son thought it was funny, but it made her daughter really upset. I was surprised she kept it from them. It didn't come up again after that. Her and her husband picked the kids up eventually, and neither kid seemed upset about it. Overall, it was a pretty good sleepover. A few hours later, I have her husband on the phone asking what I said and calling me insane. He said, "My daughter is distraught." He was saying I outed her and how cruel that was, but kids are pure. Outing means nothing to them, because you can teach them empathy and understanding. There's nothing to be afraid of being outed to a kid. Still, I did out her, which I apologised for. I eventually got her on the phone, and she said she is really upset with me, but she understands I didn't mean to cause any harm. I asked her if she was ever planning to tell her kids, and she said she wasn't sure. I was shocked at that. My sister isn't typically a dishonest person. At all. Both kids even know they are adopted. I told her I did her kids a favour, which I believe, and then she said, "I'm never sorry about anything." I think outing is horrible, but in this situation, was it justified? My husband also agrees it's the kind of lie that would have left her children distrustful of her in the future.
Am I the jerk by eating meat in front of a vegan? I'm a 27-year-old female, and my sister-in-law, 28, has been vegan for the last 6+ years and vegetarian for 15+ years. The rest of our family eat meat, besides my grandmother, who is vegetarian. We have a very small family and have always come together on Christmas Day. Now, for the last 3 years, at my sister-in-law's request, we've had a fully vegan Christmas dinner. No ham, no turkey, not even any Christmas pudding or custard. Our families will be gathering this year at my home, and I've asked that we have food options available for everyone. Yes, including meat and animal products. For context, I'm currently in recovery for 10+ years of disordered eating, and I've previously used restrictions such as not eating meat or animal products as a way of significantly minimizing my caloric intake. Not eating meat allowed me to consume 200 to 600 calories a day without coming to the attention to those around me. As part of my recovery, it's important for me to allow my body the food that it desires and not cut out entire food groups. Additionally, I'm currently pregnant with a little girl, so not only am I limited to what I can eat, but I also want to get my relationship with food right before I project my issues onto my child. Therefore, this year, for the first time in 3 years, I have very gently informed my sister-in-law of the above, and that we will be serving meat at Christmas this year. There was a lot of back and forth, and I tried to stay as polite yet firm as I could. The conversation was calm, however, after it she texted me saying that for her, seeing people eat meat is the equivalent of seeing people eat human flesh, and therefore she won't be joining us for Christmas. This will have a knock-on effect as her immediate family will be forced between choosing to join us or her. I imagine they'll choose to stick with her as to not get on her bad side. She can be very controlling at times, hence why we've had 3 Christmases in a row so far that have been dictated by her lifestyle choice. I want my child to grow up enjoying all food and to embrace past traditions of a Christmas ham or turkey and all that comes with it. I've been told now by numerous family members that I've ruined Christmas. Not only for this year, but for future years too. Now, instead of having one big day together, people have broken off into smaller groups as a result of this conversation, and family tensions are at an all-time high. Ugh, what do you think? Am I really the jerk?
Am I the jerk for changing all the locks in my house without letting my mom know? When I, 23-year-old male, was 15, my dad died. My mom, 45, didn't wait too long to start over and moved her new partner in just 2 months later. My dad left everything to me and not even a dime to her. Oh, they weren't married, by the way. My dad's will was structured so that she couldn't challenge it, and she attempted and even asked me to pass over one of my properties to her to show my new dad that he was welcomed. I couldn't even if I wanted to, because my dad's will specified that I must be 21 to have access to everything he left me. This dude had kids, 18-year-old male, 19-year-old female, their ages now, and my mom prioritized them to keep him happy. I mean, she wasn't like abusive or neglectful, but she tended to favor them. They went on trips, and even if she didn't tell me not to go, she'd say something between the lines as, "Wouldn't you like to go to your grandparents?" My dad's better. I mean, I'm not stupid. I know she didn't want me there. When I turned 17, she asked me to leave my own house because I kept fighting with her dude, and I also reminded him of whose house it was when he wanted to play the man of the house. I also called him John Conroy. My grandparents told me to avoid confrontation, so I went to live with them. My mom would visit me often and tell me how much she loved me, but she needed to keep peace at home. After college, I decided to check my properties and also the one that my mom is living at. I wanted to renovate it to rent it since it's a good one and can help me to afford my master's. I went there to inform my mom, but no one was there. Later, I found they went on vacations. I called her, but she didn't answer, so I proceeded to change the locks, mainly to officially take possession. They arrived yesterday and couldn't get in, of course. They called me, but I wasn't in the town. I went today because some renovation works will start in a few weeks. I was in the backyard and my mom came in furious, yelling at me saying, "How dare I do that?" So we talked and I let them know they have 2 weeks to leave. Her husband, an self-employed, was furious. My mom and her stepdaughter started crying because of course the girl's pregnant. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I made up my mind." My mom's family shaming me, but I'd like to know if you think I'm the jerk. My mom called me today, saying that we should talk.
Am I the jerk for not letting my neighbors access our pool? My spouse, 45, and I, 46, bought a house in February with a pool. It's a non-HOA single-family home. We keep it for ourselves. We have friends over occasionally and we've enjoyed having people over for food, drinks, and of course swimming pool parties now that the weather allows for it. We fit in the neighborhood, or so we thought. Until neighbors from 3 surrounding homes and us got into a weird conversation around their expectations to access the pool for weekend and holiday pool parties. Apparently the owners before us had kids and were friends with the neighborhood kids. The neighborhood kids and adults would use the pool when they wanted to. The gate was always open, and they even had their inflatables nearby. Oh, also loose jokes about paying for the maintenance of the pool. We told them that we're fairly private people and we enjoy our privacy and don't see ourselves letting neighbors have access to our backyard whenever they want. Each time any of us are wandering around outside, they just ask over and over, and try to sell the idea of having access to it. They offer money, and mentions of sharing the maintenance fees and such. Until, well, I was trying to enjoy gardening and was cornered once again. I just really firmly told them that they really need to stop talking about the pool each time they see us, stood up, and left. As I was walking back towards the gate to the backyard, within our property line, they were following me talking my ears off. One of the ladies/moms was still going on, because she asked nicely and offers to pay for the maintenance and that she really didn't understand why I was so against it. I turn around and ask them to leave now and never follow me on my property ever again. We politely decline, over and over. And we're seriously getting tired of the nagging and the pool and their access to it being the only thing they want to connect with us about. It's not like we created a bond or anything. All convos are about the pool. We had a party yesterday evening and as I was showing the front yard to my friend, my neighbor popped up and was talking about how it must be nice to be invited to enjoy the pool, and I said to her, "Can you go now? I'm having company." Am I the jerk for not wanting neighbors to have access to my property, and seriously losing my patience with their expectations?
Royal AI.
Am I the jerk for screaming at my sister at my engagement party? I, 28-year-old female, am getting married in 6 months to my fiancé, 30-year-old male. The wedding will be really small, only close family and friends, and we've had a quick engagement just because we've been together for so long. 8 years. Now I have an identical twin sister, M. Despite us being twins, M and I have never been close due to M's seemingly pathological need to be better than me at everything. Ever since we were little, she's had to be the better twin at everything. If I wanted to do a sport, she had to do the sport too. If I showed an interest in a hobby, she had to excel at that hobby. Our parents always made a point of letting us find our own personalities outside of being twins. So M's behavior made it hard growing up. It got worse in high school when I started to date. Any boy I showed an interest in, she had to get there first. It didn't matter if she liked him or not. It only stopped when I moved away for university. I got into my first choice. M applied but didn't get the grades. I moved away, found my own personality, and met my now fiancé. I've hardly seen M over the past few years, except for Christmases and our birthday. It all came to a head at my engagement party last month. I invited my family, and unknown to me, my mother had told M what kind of outfit I was wearing. She came in a dress almost exactly like mine, but more glamorous. Her hair and makeup had been professionally done, and she did look incredible. I tried to ignore it as it was a celebration for me and my fiancé. The night went well until M decided to make a speech. Side note, M is not a bridesmaid. I'm only having my best friend from university as a bridesmaid. The whole speech was about us being twins, doing everything together, and how much I'd always tried to be just like M. She joked about the boys I dated, made a dig at not being a bridesmaid because OP's probably worried I'd steal her thunder, and rounded it off by saying, "If you get tired of her, you know where I am," to my fiancé. I saw red, grabbed her by the arm, and dragged her into the hallway. Now I'll admit, I swore a lot while screaming at her, and had no idea everyone at the party could hear. I ripped into Em and called her a psychotic, jealous runt who couldn't stand the idea of her sister being happy. I also yelled that she shouldn't have spent our entire lives pretending to be me. I rounded it off by telling her to screw off and not bother coming to my wedding, as I didn't want a pathetic waste of DNA there. Harsh words, but I was really mad. Since then, several family members, including my mother, have called me a jerk for embarrassing Em at a family party and for bringing up sensitive subjects such as her unemployment. I'm refusing to back down on her not being there, despite nearly my entire family telling me to get over myself. So, trying to get some brutal honesty, am I really the wrong one in this? Please help.
Am I the jerk for refusing to give my son's dad a copy of the key of my new home? My ex-husband, 31, and I, 30, divorced 2 years ago. We share custody of our 5-year-old son. I moved out before the divorce and lived with my mom for a while. Recently, I bought a 1-story house using my dad's inheritance, and I moved in with my mom and my son very recently. His father comes to pick him up and then drop him off on certain days. After I moved into the new house, he had a conversation with me about wanting a copy of the key to the house. I felt weirded out by this request, but he explained that since I'm at work, whenever he drops our son off, he needs the key to get in and make our son something to eat and or prepare his bed. I told him I have my mum there and she takes care of that. He said it's not up to me and that he would like to have full access in any place his son is at. I got upset and called him ridiculous. He lashed back, calling me unreasonable, and that him getting a copy of the key was supposed to be a no-brainer, and said he didn't even understand how this was a debate. I told him to leave, but he got his mom involved and she kept scolding me about trying to limit her son's access to his own child and acting stubborn about the key thing, when this house was supposed to be the common area for us since my son lives here, so his dad should have access to it. I refused, and Mum started arguing with his mum, which caused a huge mess. I feel like my joy in the new house is now ruined, but I'm unsure if he has a valid argument here.
Am I the jerk? I reported my car missing after my husband took it to attend his brother's wedding. My husband, 35, does not have a car. He sold his old one to help pay for his brother's wedding. I did not agree on this, but he had this car before we got together, so it's a shared property. Besides that, I have my own car, so that didn't affect me till my husband started complaining about having to commute to work and hang out places. He tried to get me to let him drive my car several times, but I stood firm and put a boundary, making him understand that my car will never be driven by him. One of the reasons why is how bad his driving is. His brother lives out of town. My husband asked if he could drive my car to the wedding, but I refused, but not because I'm not invited. Another story for another day, but because, like I said, my car's off limits. He threw a fit calling me unreasonable to let him take public transportation because he can barely stand it for 10 minutes, let alone hours. I said it wasn't my problem, which irritated him, but made him stop arguing about it. The day that he was supposed to travel out of town, I woke at 10 a.m. and couldn't find my car key. I went outside and couldn't find my car either. I was beyond pissed. I called him and, like I expected, he took it and was on his way to the other town. I lost it and told him I gave him no permission to take it for a whole 5 days and said that if he won't turn around with it and come home, then I'd call the cops and report it missing. His response was, "You wouldn't dare do it, because you know what would happen." I hung up on him, then immediately called the police and told them about my situation. I did not tell them my husband took it, because they'd think it's a family dispute and decide to not get involved. I just reported it missing. 2 hours later, I got a call from my husband saying he was back in town and was being held at our local police station. I went to the station and talked to the cops. My husband made a scene there, swearing over and over that I gave him permission to take it and said I was acting out of jealousy and spite because he was going to attend a wedding that I was not invited to. I took my car and went home, but he had to stay a little longer. He came home in the evening and went on a rage fit about how I created an awful situation and almost caused him to miss his brother's wedding. He called me vindictive, bitter, and a lunatic to call the police on him and tried to accuse him of stealing my car. He had to leave the same day to be able to be there with his family and decided to extend his stay, and he still hasn't gotten back yet. Right now, his mom and brother are blasting me for what happened and calling me spiteful. What do you think? Am I really the bad one?
I am the jerk for keeping a secret storage unit. My wife and I moved in 6 years ago after 3 years of dating. When I moved into her place, she didn't want a lot of my stuff in there because either she had it already or deemed it as junk. She didn't want my posters, my toys, or action figures, and a bunch of other things. She wanted me to get rid of it. I tried appealing to her and finding a compromise, but she was unwavering in her stance. I almost gave them away until my friend just told me to put it in a storage unit since it wasn't a lot of stuff, and they held significance in my life. They were things I've had since I was an undergraduate and remind me of different times in my life. I've always been nostalgic and never wanted to throw anything out because I feel like these items are memorabilia for another time in my life that will never come back. So everything went into a storage unit. I started with a locker, but now I have a 5x10. Not because I have that much stuff, but because I like to spend some time staying in there and just going down memory lane every now and then. I do it once a month or once every 2 months. I even got things from my parents from my childhood in there. My wife has always been the practical one and never kept things unless they were super important or had major significance in her life. She would honestly just throw out 90% of the things in the unit, if not all. So I always told her that I took care of the things she didn't want to keep, so I did. Even now, when I make purchases I know she won't let me keep, they basically go in the unit. Recently, my wife's been asking our kids to get rid of the toys they no longer play with. But you know kids, they don't want to do that despite the fact that they didn't really care for their old toys. They didn't want to get rid of it either. They were so upset and crying all day. So I basically donated the toys that went untouched most of their lives and were still in good conditions and kept the worn-out ones in my unit. I took my kids with me to show them the toys and told them not to worry, and I'll take care of the toys for them. When we got home, they were all happy and cheery when my wife asked them what's up. They spilled the beans. I never told them to keep it a secret, but at the same time, I didn't expect them to squeal. My wife was very angry and demanded to see the unit. I showed it to her, and as expected, she deemed all of it junk and wanted me to get rid of it all. I refused because I'm the one paying for it. We have separate finances, and this doesn't affect her in any way. Now she's not talking to me, and everyone's been bashing me for keeping such a big thing a secret from her. I just wanted my own space/den. I probably shouldn't have hidden it, but I know she would never approve of it, and I didn't want unnecessary tension and drama. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for telling my son the truth? That the reason I had zero contact with him while he grew up is because I hate kids. I won't beat around the bush. I hate kids. Hate is literally the smallest word I could use to describe my feelings for kids. Kids, in my definition, ends roughly at 25. Growing up, I had a lot of anger management issues because of kids. I was expelled repeatedly for how I coped with it until I was homeschooled. When I turned 19, I got a job in nature way up north, so I wouldn't even have to see kids. To be more blunt, if I found a genie's lamp, my very first wish would be to get rid of kids in their entirety. My second wish would be to have all humans come into the world as adults. I hate kids. I feel anger and pure annoyance just thinking about them. I literally lived very far removed from society just to avoid them. Most of you will likely call me the jerk for that alone, but I'm not here for that. 27 years ago, I met Henry, a man I was hoping to marry. When I told him I was pregnant, I made it clear I had no interest in being a mother. He desperately wanted to keep the child, it ended with me forfeiting all rights. After birth, I made it clear I had no interest in having a relationship and would actively ignore any attempt of them reaching out to me. Many times did my son try to reach out to me, and I won't pretend. It angered me. My anger is perfectly rational in my own mind, but I respect that others won't feel that way. A month ago, he reached out to me again, and this time I responded. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about in regards to having a relationship, but now that he's an adult, I was ready to be honest with him. He predictably asked why I was never in his life, so I just told him the truth. I hate kids, cannot stand them, the sight, noises, anything about them. That I would have been a worse mother for how much hatred I feel towards kids. Even I have the sense to acknowledge that I would be toxic. He said he understood, but now I'm getting calls and online messages from his father and all sorts of people calling me a stain on humanity, among other things. I just want to know, am I the jerk for leveling with him? I don't think I am because he asked for the truth. But with all these messages, I'm really starting to wonder. To be clear, I'm not asking, am I the jerk for refusing to have a relationship with him? I'm asking, am I the jerk for being honest about why?
Am I the jerk for turning my kids into picky eaters? I and my wife have 2 kids, age 10 female and 8 female. My older daughter is in gymnastics and my younger daughter does ballet. As they have a lot of physical activity, they get ravenous when they're done with practice. However, they usually have school immediately after practice, so my wife and I alternate between packing food for them. We usually pack a lunch and a breakfast for right after the practice. Thankfully, my kids aren't picky eaters, so it's easy to cook for them. My wife usually packs sandwiches in a juice box or reheated frozen pizza for them, which usually doesn't sustain them enough. I pack curries, rice, salads, eggs, homemade smoothies, etc. All the stuff that keeps them full for longer. Yesterday, my kids told us at dinner that they like the food I pack for them a lot and that they want me to pack food for them every day since mom's food isn't as filling. They said that they feel hungry before the 2nd hour and the lunch starts only after the 4th hour. When the kids went to bed, my wife got mad at me saying that the kids are becoming picky eaters thanks to me and my elaborate meals. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for making my daughter eat salad while my son gets chicken nuggets? I have 2 kids, a 7-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. Every other week I take them to activities in a certain mall, and in between we go to a local fast food chain. Now, I do usually have my kids have a healthy diet, but for those rather rare occasions I let them choose whatever they want. I don't believe going to a fast food place but then restricting their order so they won't enjoy rather unhealthy food makes sense. So the kids' menu comes with many different options, and the menu even has pictures of all the food. They go every week so they know. My son chose chicken nuggets and fries as the main, a drink and a cookie for dessert. Just what I would have expected. My daughter picked the chicken Caesar salad. I didn't expect that. Asked her if she was sure, explained it didn't come with fries. She loves fries, she insisted. Last time I had the salad and she tried one of the croutons and a piece of chicken and loved them. I didn't care too much, and a Caesar salad's great. It's not like just snacking a few salad leaves like a rabbit. There's sauce, cheese, chicken, fried chicken, and croutons as extras. Plus, she had the ice cream for dessert. Well, the food came, we sat down, and after taking a few bites, she started complaining about the food. She saw my son eat his chicken nuggets and dip the fries in sauce. She asked him for one, he let her try the fries and gave her a nugget, as he usually can't finish all them anyways. Then she decided that instead of the salad, she wanted fries now. I said no, she has to eat the salad. Oh well, I wouldn't make her eat it, but I wasn't going to buy her new fries instead. My argument is that she chose it. She's old enough to make that choice, and there's nothing wrong with the salad. It looks delicious. I even offered to give her some of my meal, a baguette sandwich. But she wants nuggets and fries now. She started throwing a fit. I ignored it, told her to sit and eat, or at least stop screaming now, or there would be consequences. Some old lady heard her, and I guess she picked up the "it's not fair that he gets nuggies and fries, and she has to eat that stupid salad." Well, wow. The lady went off on me. How I'm treating my kids unfairly, and how I shouldn't body shame my daughter. I told her to get out of my business and shut up. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Note, my son is extremely slim for his age. He's a very active child and quite tall. He's underweight, but his doctor said it's nothing to worry about as long as he's eating normally. It can be that way for kids his age. My daughter is on the heavier side of average. The doctor is also not much concerned here. Her weight is within what's okay, just on the higher end of that. So it might have seemed like it was because my daughter is not as extremely skinny that she didn't get the fried food, which is not what happened. Am I the jerk for making my daughter eat the salad she chose, instead of buying her nuggets and fries like her brother?
My son violates their curfew? My dumb HOA imposed a 9:45 p.m. curfew for those under 18 and hour in our homeowners association, mostly because of minors drinking and doing drugs in a park and playground. I think there may have been some graffiti and vandalism. Seems pretty reasonable, right? To screw over everyone else for the actions of a few, which by the way has done nothing to stop whoever's doing this. The problem actually got worse after the curfew, but now whenever kids lose track of time, they end up having to spend the night at neighbors' houses in fear of getting in trouble with the HOA for breaking curfew. This is as freaking stupid as laws banning guns or drugs. I'm pretty sure that it's unconstitutional and there's talks of a lawsuit. My 17-year-old son works at a movie theater and comes home from work oftentimes at midnight or so. He's been asked by the HOA board members why he's violating curfew, and he explains why. They said it doesn't matter, and he's getting a warning. He told them to go to heck, and he doesn't respect them or give a care. I got a letter with a fine. I responded back and told them I'm not paying. I got a visit from an HOA member, and he told me I'd be getting fined as long as my son violated curfew. I told him to eat poop and close the door. I'd like to see them bring this to court. They keep coming to me, and I just slam the door on them.
Am I the jerk for not wanting my son's bully to attend his birthday party? I, 40-year-old male, have a son, 9-year-old male, Lucas. My ex passed away a year after Lucas was born. Lucas is being raised by myself and my husband, 41-year-old. He's very shy and doesn't socialize a ton in school. He does have a great small group of friends. His birthday is coming up and he wants to have a small party with friends and classmates. We went out and picked up some invitations and he handed them out in school. Another student that he was friends with, Tyler, picks on him every day for being shy and having 2 dads. I have met with Tyler's parents to discuss the bullying and they even made comments about my relationship. Lucas invites his friends and classmates, Tyler's parents, call me demanding to know why Tyler didn't receive an invite to the party. I explained to her that it was up to Lucas who was invited. She called me a few names and demanded for Tyler to receive an invitation tomorrow, or she would go to the school. I told my husband what happened and he understands that I'm protecting Lucas but should not teach him to exclude people. Am I the jerk for not wanting my son's bully to attend his birthday party?
A jerk for purposely avoiding having breakfast with my husband and demanding to know why he was still home. I'm 5 months pregnant. For the bulk of my pregnancy, I've had issues with keeping food down, especially in the morning. My husband doesn't understand this and accused me of starving myself and being on a fad diet. I tried to eat more to get him to stop multiple times, but it always caused me to throw up. That and the general state of our marriage made me start to intentionally avoid having breakfast with him. I know his schedule, so it was very easy for me to oversleep until he had left the house or gone into his home office for the day. He finally figured out I was faking it, because this morning he was waiting in the kitchen for me when I woke up. My reaction wasn't the best because I wasn't expecting him to be home, so he scared me, but I demanded to know why he was still home and told him he had to leave. He wouldn't and said he knew what game I was playing and we were going to have breakfast together today. We did end up having breakfast together. I tried to avoid it, but he wouldn't budge, and in the end he told me that we would be talking to the doctor about my lack of appetite since I still ate less than a child, and from now on there wouldn't be any more oversleeping. I plan to continue to oversleep though. Am I the jerk?
I'm not willing to lie about how we met to her family and friends. I met my fiancée online on a dating app. We've been together for 2 years now and got engaged recently. However, she keeps telling me that during the wedding, she wants me to give a speech talking about how I met her while she was working at a coffee shop. And I was so attracted to her that it was love at first sight, and I immediately asked her to be my girlfriend. She says that this makes her look better and will make her look good to her friends if I say that she was so beautiful that I immediately asked her out. To clarify, she's saying I have to say that I asked her to be my girlfriend right at the counter without even having any sort of conversation with her first. The only problem is I feel very uncomfortable with this untrue version of events. I'm happy to say that she's beautiful and that I really love her personality and that we have a great connection, but I'm uncomfortable with this portrayal of myself as some sort of creep who has to complete stranger to be my girlfriend. There's other lies that she wants me to go along with too. For example, I inherited a house from my grandparents. But she's asking me to tell all her friends and family that I myself paid for and bought her the house because she's so special. After I said no, she's been saying that I care more about the opinions of other people than how she feels, and that she's reconsidering if she wants to be with someone who isn't on her side. Do I have a point? Or does she? Just to be clear, my fiancé said that the reason she wants me to do the speech and tell people I bought her a house is so that her friends will envy her. She already told her friends and family those things, but it's another thing to want me to actually talk about them and lie about these things. She knows that my friends and family know I inherited the house and that we met on a dating app. But she says I have to warn them to not say anything and pretend to believe me at the wedding. She gave me an ultimatum that we won't get married if I don't agree and hasn't talked to me for days. It looks like I'm not the jerk based on responses. How can I get her to see the light?
Am I the jerk for getting mad at my mom for refusing to let my wife host a single holiday? I have been married for 6 years, and my wife and my mom have never really gotten along. I don't think my mom's an awful mother-in-law, they just don't vibe and they avoid each other if they can. I would describe the relationship as frosty. My mom does respect our boundaries and doesn't undermine us as parents. She just keeps a pretty big distance and doesn't interact much. My mom hosts all the holidays at her house, as does my mother-in-law. My wife and I rotate which family we celebrate with, and my mom's cool with that and has never pressured us to go to her house. Recently, my wife has expressed that she wants a turn to host, and she feels like since we have kids 4 and 2 that the mom should hand it over to her. She talked to her mom, who was very sad but agreed to let my wife have one holiday. I talked to my mom since we both do the communication with our own family, and my mom said no. I gave her my wife's reasons. 1, we have young kids. 2, we have our own house now and our own little family, and it's exciting for my wife. And 3, my mom got 20+ years of hosting. My mom said no again. She said if we don't come over, we don't have to, but she will not be coming to our house. She said we can invite my side of the family, but she honestly thinks that would be a jerk thing to do. I asked if she really was willing to give up her holiday with her grandkids, and she said yes. I did get frustrated and called her selfish. The conversation ended with my mom yelling at me that I'm a hypocrite and that she feels like I expect her to care about my wife more than she's obligated to. I asked around and none of my relatives are willing to come, but my sister did yell at me and said I'm a bad son and I'm disrespectful for thinking our mom should give up something she cares about. I work for my stepdad's company, and he's currently not talking to me, and I guess my whole extended family's talking bad things about me, and they're offended that I thought they would come to my house.
Am I the jerk for telling my son to get over himself, man up, and stop publicly calling his wife dead weight? My son and his wife are 25 and 27, and I'm 45. They both worked full-time until a few months ago when his wife had to stop for reasons that aren't mine to share. And my son has become insufferable. It recently culminated in me telling him he needed to stop whining about the situation and man up. I love my son very much, but he's always online posting about how hard he has to work or going on unprovoked monologues about the stresses of being a family's sole breadwinner. He does this very openly, doesn't even try to hide it from his wife. It clearly makes her feel bad or like she's not pulling her weight, since he also talks about having to do everything around the house and care for his wife since she's on IR for now. I talked to her and she told me she wasn't bothered by anything but him claiming he does everything at home, because according to her, he doesn't. When I pointed everything out to him, he said, "Well, you and her can't understand what it's like to be the sole income of a household, and that I should ask Dad since he could tell you." His father was the sole breadwinner for a long time. I work too now, though, but yes, he knows what it's like. But his father, or my father, were never this dramatic. And everyone's heard my husband or dad express any worry over bearing the entire burden. These were men. They didn't do that. They manned up and kept it moving. Sure, they may have felt a little uneasy about it, but they didn't dwell on it, and they certainly didn't belittle their wife's contributions and lie about doing everything at home as well. My daughter pointed out, he's my son, and I shouldn't be standing up for his wife if it means putting him down. But I'm just tired of him constantly moaning and groaning in person and online about his situation, along with basically saying his wife is not pulling her weight.
Am I the jerk for just leaving my mom to sit in a hotel for a week after she insulted my family? I haven't seen my mom in years. I moved out to Los Angeles when I was 16. She cut off all contact with me. Since that time, I've moved on with my life. I met a wonderful man and have 2 children with him. He's Latino, so he often speaks Spanish in his family with my children. I only speak very little Spanish, but it's a non-issue in his family. My mom came out and visited my other brother who lives near. He's in a similar situation with his fiancée. Well, my brother's fiancée wanted to meet his mother and heal the wounds of the past. We repeatedly warned her that our mom is a religious fanatic and regularly watches Fox News. Her views on Latinos are not good. Within a few hours of meeting, my mom, fiancé, my husband, and my 2 children chat on and off in Spanish. My mom flips out, saying that they're trying to breed into white culture and destroy it. Yes, breed. That's why they, Latinos, are mating with white people, to dilute our bloodlines. At this point, I took my kiddos and left. They don't need to be around it. My mom also got mad at my brother's fiancée and called her a nasty S-word when trying to reason with my mom. So that was that. Mom sat in a hotel by herself for the rest of the week. My brother and I split the cost. Neither of us talked to her after that. She has a few more issues with mask mandates, so she refused to go into restaurants and just made herself miserable. My grandma and cousins say we're jerks for leaving our mom stuck in a city, because she couldn't afford to change her plane ticket, but Mom never once tried to meet our family without being racist. Am I the jerk for telling a woman with a newborn a dog can give birth? So there's this woman I work with who gave birth 2 months ago, and she's constantly bragging about it. I'm not kidding you when I say she talks about her pregnancy experience and her newborn every single day. The other day, she was once again talking about how many hours she was in labor and how hard it is being a mom. And I jokingly said, a dog can give birth too. She didn't find it funny at all, and she'd given me the cold shoulder for the past couple of days. I kind of feel bad about it, but I just got tired of it. I'm a woman too, if that makes it any better. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for telling my husband our daughter won't be around my mother-in-law unless she shuts her mouth? I'm facing some very weird issues with my mother-in-law that I never thought I'd deal with. My husband is red-haired / ginger, and his mum has some soft ring curls. His dad is a ginger as well, so it's genetics. My 1-year-old daughter is also a ginger. I never once thought of a reason why my daughter should feel uncomfortable with her hair colour and curls until my mother-in-law made it an issue. My mother-in-law hates ginger hair. She always tried to convince my husband his skin is empty and his hair is ugly. That happened since childhood. My husband grew up with a lot of self-hate, which he overcame once his inner circle of friends tried to lift him up and encourage him to feel confident. Now, my husband loves his looks. My mother-in-law seems to do the same thing she did to my husband when she's around my daughter. She says stuff like how unlucky she is she got that hair, how she's going to spend hundreds in her life to dye her hair, how the curls are ugly and not easily tamed. Multiple times I've told her to stop doing that, because our daughter will internalize all these thoughts and hate her appearance for no reason. Mother-in-law throws tantrums claiming my husband won't let her have an opinion. Every time it happens, my husband tries to put a stop to it, but it never works. One of the times she visited, she brought a plastic wig to see what my daughter would look like with brown hair. That's where I spoke up and said, "The joke is over now. Enough. You either cut that stuff out or get out." She guilt me, telling me how I should be grateful she's looking out for my daughter so she'll avoid being bullied. She threw one of the usual tantrums about being entitled to her opinion and left. Once she left, I told my husband that his mom will not be allowed around our kids again unless she shuts the freak up and stops trying to force insecurities on my kid. I want my kid to love herself growing up, and if her grandma causes her insecurities instead of self-love, she has no business being around. My husband said that his mom is indeed being ridiculous, but I'm taking it too far, suggesting she doesn't see the kid. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for refusing to pay a missed appointment fee? I had an appointment to get my hair cut and coloured last week. They have a policy which I was never made aware of, that cancelling an appointment with less than 24 hours notice is a $25 fee. When I arrived, the stylist was sick. He had snot running down his face and was hacking and coughing everywhere. He said it was just a cold that went to his lungs, and now he has bronchitis. He indicated that it definitely wasn't COVID because he already had that, and it felt different, but he wasn't even tested. I told him I wasn't comfortable with letting him cut my hair when he was this sick. He laughed at me and coughed at me, so I packed up and went to leave. He and the manager told me I owed $25 if I cancelled. I told them flat out, no way. You want $25? You can sue me for it. And walked out. I left a scathing review online and have literally told everyone I know about my negative experience. I'm actually friends with the stylist husband, so it's lots of mutual friends and clients I'm talking about this with. The thing that bothered me the most was when he laughed and coughed at me. I really don't care if it is COVID or the flu or a cold. I don't want it and feel he shouldn't be working so close to people when he is sick. The manager called me to insist on the fee, but I'm sticking to my guns. No fee will be paid unless they sue me for it, period. In the meantime, I'll never do business with them again.
Am I the jerk for not letting my mother-in-law babysit my daughter? My daughter is breastfed exclusively, and my mother-in-law knows this. When I bring my daughter to my mother-in-law's house, I bring enough breast milk that she'll have plenty with all the bottles and equipment for her. I've recently found out she's only feeding my daughter formula because she believes breast milk is dirty and has been throwing out all my breast milk. She said to my face, breast milk is dirty because mothers who have sex pollute their own bodies. So she has never lowered herself while taking care of her kids. I've hired a babysitter and I won't let my mother-in-law babysit my daughter and my husband, and I have been fighting because she's crying to him, and he doesn't see it as a big deal how she's fed. I feel like my family is getting split apart. I'm gritting my teeth and letting my mother-in-law walk all over me because of my husband, but this is outrageous to me because it should be my choice how I feed my baby. But am I wrong for not letting her babysit her anymore? Because I don't trust her to follow how I want to feed my baby. So what kind of logic does this mother-in-law have? Breast milk is dirty? I'm sorry, but do you know how humankind got to this point? Do you understand how logically most likely that mother-in-law was fed as a baby? Our ancestors weren't like, okay, I'm going to go forage for formula. Mothers who have sex pollute their own body? What? I don't understand any of this logic.
Am I the jerk for forcing my daughter to find her own way to a wedding because of what she was wearing? My wife and I have 3 daughters, 19, 24, and 28. Our youngest Jill just started community college this year while our 2 oldest have moved away to start their careers. Jill still lives with my wife and I as she's attending college locally, and this saves her money. This past weekend we were invited to my niece's and goddaughter's wedding a couple hours away. The dress code was semi-formal, so men were expected to wear suits and women in dresses. As we were getting ready to leave, Jill was taking her sweet time getting ready and I was kind of nagging at her to get going. She had been out late the night before with friends and I'm sure she was feeling the effects of that. When she was finally ready to go, she was wearing some kind of black spaghetti strap halter top thing with leggings. I told her that's not an appropriate outfit for her cousin's wedding and that she needs to change into something else. She told me she doesn't have anything else to wear and that I don't get to police what she's wearing. I told her that judging by the amount of dirty clothes on her floor and in her closet, she clearly has other options. She just didn't plan ahead enough to figure something out. I told her it was disrespectful to her cousin, the bride, to wear something too revealing and tacky to their wedding. Jill called me a jerk and said no one's going to care what she's wearing, and if people focus on her clothes more than the bride, that's their problem, not hers. I told her in that case how she's getting to the wedding is her problem, not mine. She asked what that meant, and I told her if that's what she wants to wear, she's going to have to find her own way to the wedding. Because I'm not about to arrive with my daughter looking like she's about to hit a club at 2 a.m., instead of attend her cousin's wedding. My wife chimed in at this point and told us both to calm down. She told me I was being overbearing, but also told Jill that she did not agree with her choice of attire either, and reminded her that this is a semi-formal event. She told Jill she would help her find a different option that would be better suited for this. Jill scoffed at that and went to her room and closed the door. I went and knocked and told her she has 15 minutes to be ready, or we're leaving without her. She yelled at me that I was being a jerk, so I went outside to wait, and after 20 minutes I went inside and Jill was still in her room. I told my wife that I'm leaving and she can either come with me now or her and Jill can figure out their own plans. My wife asked what Jill's supposed to do and I said she can take an Uber for all I care at this point. My wife reluctantly left with me and I could tell she felt guilty about the whole thing. Jill ended up not coming to the wedding and both her and my wife blame me for it. I don't think I was the jerk here though.
Am I the jerk for not letting my daughter go to her homecoming dance? My daughter is 14 and a freshman in high school. She came home one day after being at her mother's for a week. We split custody and wrote homecoming on our calendar. And starts talking about all the plans she's made with her best friend to go to homecoming together. Homecoming week happened to fall on a week she was with me. She starts raving to my wife and I about the dress her mom took her to buy and that she's matching with her friend. She had even bought a ticket already. I was furious with her entitlement to just make all these plans without asking me first. I can admit it's not just her fault, but her mother's as well, for not clearing it with me before buying her the dress and ticket. In fact, I wouldn't put it past her and her mother to have bought the dress and ticket before asking in order to force me into letting her go. I want to teach her a lesson about asking first and not assuming that I'm just going to let her do whatever she wants and that she can't manipulate people in order to get her way. So I told her that if she'd asked first, I'd have been happy to have let her go to homecoming dance. But since she decided to make plans and buy stuff before even asking if she could go, I wasn't going to let her. She cried and told me that you only get one freshman homecoming, and I told her maybe she should have thought about that. I said all homecomings are the same anyway. She has 3 more opportunities to go, and she's not missing much. She sulked in her room for the rest of the day and didn't talk much. I tried to comfort her, but my wife said not to, because I'd be teaching her that I'll give her my attention if she acts upset and cries. I went to comfort her anyway because I didn't think she was acting, but she rejected me. That infuriated me even more, so I left her in her room to cry alone. Her mother was furious when she found out and demanded that I pay her back the money she spent on the dress and homecoming ticket. I said absolutely not, because she didn't clear it with me before buying those things, so it's her own fault. However, she contacted her attorney, who contacted mine, and long story short, I got to sit down with my wife and our family therapist for a painstaking conversation about communication. It's now long after homecoming, and my daughter's pretty much back to normal, but she's still angry with me for not letting her go to that dance. I stand firmly by my decision to not let her go, but was I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for telling my husband that he emasculates himself? For context, I was raised by my single father. He raised me to be totally self-serving, where I learned not only to cook, clean, etc., but to be my own handyman. This has led to me being very independent, especially around my house. My husband, on the other hand, was raised to expect everything done for him, and never really learn any self-sustaining skills, but also raised to believe that the male is always right. Fast forward to last week, I needed to buy a new line trimmer, as my old faithful finally gave up on life. I was busy with the kids, and my husband said he would go pick it up for me. I told him which one I wanted and what brand all my power tools are. He said he understood, but when he came back, he had purchased one from a different brand. When I asked about it, he said he thought it was better, and it was also cheaper than the one I wanted. This annoyed me, but I thought whatever, he tried, move on. It wasn't until I looked at it I realized he hadn't brought the battery pack to go with it. When I asked, he told me I could just use the batteries from my other tools. I tried to explain to him that this wasn't possible and why, but he didn't want a bar of it. A few moments later, he said, "Okay, my brothers are coming over, and we can go back to the hardware store." I thought we would be either exchanging it or buying the battery pack, but I was so wrong. When we got there, he walked straight up to the tool shack and asked the tool specialist to explain to me how my Ryobi batteries would work perfectly fine in my new Makita line trimmer. Well, let's just say that this didn't go well. The tool guy sided with me and explained, when you commit to a tool brand, you stay with it due to a few aspects about the batteries. He was embarrassed, but quickly did the exchange when finding out the battery/charger pack cost more than the line trimmer itself. When we got home, it started. He was yelling at me about how I embarrassed him, how I'm constantly emasculating him, and how I should be a good wife, and just stick to doing things appropriate for females. Well, this got to me, and I snapped. I replied with, "The only person that's emasculating you is yourself. It's not my fault you never learned to be what you call a man." And I walked off. It's been a week now, and he only speaks to me through the kids. It's got me thinking, am I the jerk? Am I the jerk for telling my husband that if he wants me to work, then he'll have to split chores? My husband of 5 months basically wants me to be a 50s housewife, but also to contribute financially. Basically, he sees all things inside the home as my job, but also expects me to pull my weight financially. He talked about accelerated retirement, more shared income, etc. I think this is nonsense. Why exactly is he Mr. Equality up until the housework? He then told me that I didn't even thank him for helping with the dishes. I was not sure why he uses help when he lives here too, and he told me it was my job. I honestly don't even know what to say. I always wanted to be a housewife, even if I never said it, but I didn't envision myself being a housewife who's simultaneously expected to contribute financially. I finally got sick of it a couple days ago when he was upset because I made him wait for dinner. Since I had to stay late at work, I decided that he'd either do the chores I assigned him on a chore chart, or if he'd let me quit my job so that I could go fulfill this female's role in the traditional relationship he wants. He says I can't because we don't have kids, and I need to pull my weight financially. He seems so sure of himself, though. I don't even know what to think.
Am I the jerk for not putting my husband's children in my will? My husband Jack and I married later in life. We were both in our 50s. It was a second marriage for both of us. He has 3 children. I don't have any biological children, but I'm still very close to my former stepson Thomas that I helped raise. We were both very well off financially, Jack more than me. Jack owned his own business and was upfront that he intended that business to be left to his children. We signed a prenup before our wedding that basically said we get to each keep what we brought into the marriage. We kept our finances separate, though we both contributed to a joint account for the household expenses, which we split 50-50. We did our wills at this time. Jack left everything to his children, and I left mine to Thomas. We were both aware of what the other had done, and we were fine with it. Jack's business went under about 4 years ago. He was desperate to keep the business going and poured all his savings into it. The business had been his grandfather's, and then his father's, and he was determined to be able to hand it down to his children. He ended up losing almost everything. He was completely devastated. Standard of living-wise, not much changed except that I'm paying 100% of the household expenses. I love him, and I'm fine with this. I had a health scare about a month ago, where I realized that if I died, Jack would be left with nothing, as my will gives everything I own to Thomas. I told Jack that I was planning to change my will. My plan was to put 1/3 of my assets into a trust for Thomas's children. He has 2 currently that both call me Nana, 1/3 directly to Thomas and 1/3 in trust for Jack. I would set it up so that Jack would receive a generous monthly check, but that after he died, the assets in the trust would go to Thomas. I did it that way because I want Jack taken care of while he's alive. But after that, I want it to go to Thomas, not Jack's kids. Jack is furious that his children aren't going to receive anything. He kept pointing out that I have 3 stepchildren, not just one former one. Why are his kids getting nothing and Thomas everything? I should say that by the time we got together, Jack's children were grown. One already had a child and another was married. Other than the occasional holiday, I never lived with Jack's kids. While he's not mine biologically, Thomas is my son in every way that counts. While I get along with Jack's kids, we're not close at all. Jack's threatening to leave me over this. He keeps saying that if I don't care about his kids, that means I don't care about him. I've told them that's nonsense, and that I don't respond well to ultimatums. We had planned to leave our assets separately before we were ever married. But now that he doesn't have money, suddenly he wants me to leave my money to his kids. Am I the jerk for not wanting to?
Ever since I got out of the hospital for chronic problems, my husband's been introducing me to some games every evening. One game used to be about doing things while my eyes are blindfolded, involving puzzles, Rubik's cubes, shaped objects, etc. We'd take turns to do it just for entertainment. Just a couple of days ago, he's been trying to get me to sign papers while wearing a blindfold. I refuse to do it because he never lets me take a look at what I'm signing, neither before or after. He says that he was just trying to see if I could leave the same signature every time I sign, but I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. I told him I don't want to play this game unless and until he shows me the papers first. He said never mind then and stopped bringing it up. Last night he tried to convince me to give it a try and even volunteered to go first. I asked if he was going to show me what I was going to sign and he made a face and said no, it's the rules, and I should respect them. I refused, and he kept on about how I kept acting worried and suspicious for no reason. He said I clearly don't trust him, and he was hurt by finding that out now after everything we've been through. We had an argument, and I told him to drop it and not bring it up again. Period. He was mad, despite saying it was no big deal. He was obviously upset with me and kept talking about how I don't trust him and that I was out of line to assume or suspect anything from him like this. I might be paranoid, but I couldn't help it. I don't think I was the jerk to him after he stood by my side, when my own family didn't even visit.
Am I the jerk for calling my brother's girlfriend Tubby? I'm 15-year-old female. My 18-year-old male brother brings his girlfriend, 18-year-old female, to our house almost every day after school. I go to tutoring 3 days a week, and on these days that I come home later, I frequently find things in my room have been moved, and sometimes even missing. My brother almost never comes into my room, so I know it's not him, so I suspect that it's his girlfriend. I told him to tell his girlfriend not to touch my stuff, and he seemed offended that I would accuse her. My best friend had given me a box of chocolate for my birthday, and I remember very clearly putting it in the drawer next to my desk. The next day, I had tutoring, and when I got home, I saw that it was gone. I, of course, assumed that it was the girlfriend. There was literally no one else in our house. I confronted her directly this time and asked if she could please return what she took and not to go into my room again. She became super defensive and said she didn't know what I was talking about. I asked if she could dump out the contents of her bag, and she started crying, which made my brother yell at me. Finally, she admitted to taking the chocolate, and she pulled it out of her bag and threw it across the floor. It managed to slide underneath the stairs, reeling, and exploded on the first floor. I asked her about the other stuff that went missing, and she admitted to all of it. I said, "Stay away from my room, Tubby," which caused her to absolutely bawl, like I'd never seen before from anyone her age. My brother then told me off and said, I should apologize to her. I said, "Why should I apologize to a thief?" And I went into my room. She hasn't come over since that happened. I don't know what's going on exactly, but I don't really care. My brother said she's really insecure and has low self-esteem. She's quite overweight, and that what I said was completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk?
Royal AI.
Am I the jerk from making my stepson walk on his engagement night? The title sounds bad, but hear me out. My stepson Rowan, 23, just got engaged to his fiancée. She comes from a highly conservative family, and they both won't live together till after marriage. They're both on great terms, and I have to say, her parents are a bit much. So the engagement party was held at a restaurant. I drove my wife, Rowan, and his best friend Jack there, because Rowan's car needed some work. Things went quite well, party ended, and everyone went home. On the way back, I had to stop by the store so I could grab something for our 16-year-old son. Rowan, Jack and I waited in the car. Rowan and Jack kept laughing. Then this young lady walked towards us because her car was parked next to mine in the parking lot. Rowan kept trying to speak to her while she was trying to load her stuff in her car. He and Jack kept throwing words at her and she seemed annoyed. Jack then said, "Hey, he just wants to look at that butt." Then Rowan said, "Let me see a jiggle baby." I was appalled. I told them both to knock it off, but then Rowan sarcastically replied, "Relax, I was just giving her a compliment. Bet she doesn't get many of those often." The lady got in her car and I started arguing with him about his behaviour and shamed him for acting like this on his own engagement night. He argued back, saying something about my car, and I lost it. I told him to get out immediately. Jack got involved, so I kicked him out too. My wife got back and started engaging in the argument, saying I can't let her son walk home from his engagement party. I replied that her son can't be harassing other women on the way back from his engagement party, but she kept defending him. I told her to either stay or get in the car. She did, and I drove off. Rowan didn't come home, and my wife gave me heck for it. We later found out that he was staying at one of his guy friends' place. From what I understand, he's pissed at me and refusing to see me. My wife said it was my fault. I escalated the situation over some stupid crap boys his age do all the time. I told her he can't do this while in my car, but she took it as I was holding it over his head. She said I should have never have made him walk the night of his engagement and demanded that I apologise to him. Was I the jerk for kicking him and his friend out of the car on his engagement night?
Am I the jerk for not giving my Switch to a relative for free? I, 25-year-old female, have a Nintendo Switch and a few games. A week ago, my cousin's family came over for a vacation in the US. They have kids who are about 8 and 5. They asked if they can play on my Switch. I said sure, and picked out an age-appropriate game for them. About an hour later, they gave it back and said thank you. Later that night, they were excitedly talking about the Switch and how I was really nice. My cousin's wife spoke out and asked if I can give them the Switch for free. I looked at her like she's crazy and told her, heck no. She got offended and told me I'm too old to be playing on it, which I responded with, you're too old to be begging for video games. She got even more offended and started yelling at me. She refuses to talk to me. My cousin's on my side, but my mom's chastising me about how I should keep peace. I'm sorry, but in what world would you ever give up your $300+ console? This isn't some Christmas gift or birthday gift that you're just tossing their way. This is something you paid for yourself with your own hard-earned money that you obviously want for yourself. It's like if I went to that person's house and watched something really nice on their TV, and at the very end saying, wow, that TV is so nice, can I have it for free? It's like, no, of course not.
Am I the jerk for not punishing my daughter for ruining her stepfather's briefcase? I, 34-year-old male, have a 10-year-old daughter, Ava, with my ex-wife. We were together until she was 7. We each got half custody at that time, but it currently is every other weekend at her mother's house. She remarried to someone I'll call Rob, who has 2 sons, who he clearly favors over our daughter, who he seems to hate. I have expressed concern at the way he seems to feel about her, but have been shut down. Last weekend, Rob and my ex went on a weekend trip where they had to drive for 3+ hours each way. On the way back, Ava was sitting in the 3rd row of their minivan and got sick. She ended up throwing up all over Rob's new fancy briefcase that probably cost $200. He was mad because they'd given her something to throw up in and she purposely threw up on his briefcase. He said that he didn't think she should be able to see her horse or take lessons until it would pay for a new briefcase for him, and after I picked her up, texted me that. Her mother boards a horse at the same bar Ava goes to, and so she saw her and was very upset that I wasn't honoring the agreement. I didn't think it was reasonable, and I didn't agree to co-parent Ava with some idiot who hates my child, so I have no reason to enforce his punishments. Her mother says I'm undermining her authority and being a jerk. Am I the jerk for not punishing her?
Am I the jerk for telling my mother she'll no longer get to see my wife or baby? So me and my wife have a newborn who is breastfed. My wife hates confrontation. She never stands up for herself. She won't argue with anyone, ever. I mean ever. She will let you walk all over her, and then apologize to you, to keep the peace. It used to be infuriating because she's the sweetest soul, and she just lets people say what they want and she doesn't deserve it. But after talking, there's a good reason behind it, so we're working together how to fix this. Well, one thing was she always felt afraid. Not because she didn't want to, but because she knew it caused a confrontation breastfeeding anywhere but the house, or in a bathroom or closet, and so we'll keep a blanket. It took a lot of explaining, but unless she's uncomfortable with breastfeeding just anywhere, there's no reason to hide in a bathroom. Well, we're at my mother's house. I don't have the best relationship with her, but my wife thinks it's important, and I enjoy talking to my dad. So we were over with the baby chatting with my father, and my mother cooking. As they were talking, she started feeding. Baby was eating and she had a blanket covering her slightly. Dad has 6 kids, he couldn't give less of a crap. He looked away for a moment so she could get situated and engaged back in conversation without any issue. My mother comes in, gasps and goes on a rant. She said that it's disgusting and if she was to do that she should have gone home. Especially in front of her husband, who apparently looks uncomfortable, and it's rude to do when you know people around you don't like it. Dad cut her off, saying to keep him out of it and feeding a baby wasn't his issue. She ignored, continued ranting, saying that she needed to respect herself more and don't ever do that in her house again. I stopped her. I said that she needed to get lost and get over herself. She had 6 kids who she undoubtedly did the same thing with, and this was just her way of taking her anger out, but she's not going to do it on her. I said that she was being a hypocritical jerk and that this is the last time she's seeing my wife or baby. This happened once and is not going to happen again. Then she said that she was just in a bad mood, and she's so sorry she took it out on her, and she's welcome to do whatever she needs to. I told her she should have thought about that before, then went to my wife, who, mid-rant, left the bathroom in hysterics, but didn't want to interrupt the baby's eating. We sat in the bathroom for a little while until the baby was done. She stopped crying, then we left. My dad said I was being more reasonable than he would have. Mom sent me tons of messages. Families telling me that I was being dramatic and that it wasn't that serious and I was being entirely unreasonable, and if my wife was that hurt by it she needed to grow thicker skin. She didn't even actually have an issue, she was just being mean. I think I was right to do what I did. But am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for yelling at my brother after he insulted my wife? So, my wife is different than my family. She did not grow up the way I grew up. She's still breaking old habits. My wife was homeless for a really long time with both of her brothers. She took care of them for a long time, while her parents were God knows where. She was 18, couldn't get in the system, and was terrified of bringing her brothers there. So they would hide behind dumpsters. Surprisingly, a lot of dumpsters are gated, and if they aren't, they have quite a bit of room in the back and sides of it. Due to this, she would find a way to get food, give it to her brothers, and would only eat when she had to. And when she did, it was horrendously little amounts. She doesn't look down on the fact that they were homeless, and rather that she got them out of that situation by herself. Now that you got the reason for this, here's the problem. My family has a lake house to go to for summers. This is the first summer married, everyone introduced. So why not? My wife rarely sees my brother, because I rarely see my brother. While everyone was eating, we don't sit around the table like some would. We all kind of scatter. Now, bringing in what I've explained before, she still has irregular eating habits. Of course, we're working through it, but I can't force her to eat, and if I did, it wouldn't last opposed to if she did it herself. So I don't, unless I see it going on for too long. Again, she usually eats after everyone else does. Well, when we all went to bed, she felt hungry and decided to go to the pantry I heard commotion from the bedroom, and it was my brother raising his voice at her, accusing her of stealing from the pantry. Stealing what? Food. That our parents, the owners of the place, said she's welcome to. Okay. I came out, asked what's happening. He was trying to explain that she would never. Not only that, but we keep the money separate. She was set on keeping it that way. He laughed and said, "You know what? That's what you get for marrying someone who has a criminal record." For what? Stealing. Stealing what? Food. I yelled and said that he needed to stop acting like a rich boy, because I could have sworn him himself had a criminal record for stealing too. Only he was stealing for craps and giggles, and she was stealing because she was hungry. But I'm sure his wife would love to hear about that, since I guess she's a fool too, for dating someone as delusional as him. Oh, and of course, with a criminal record, we got our stuff and left. Of course, I got messages from him, got messages from my mum saying I was immature and I acted like a child. She said I ruined the vacation. My dad's the only one who thinks I was in the right. Am I the jerk? Really don't think I am.
Am I the jerk for telling my friend that he is a creep? 18-year-old male, let's call him Steve, has been my friend for about a year now. Steve goes on a lot of dates, and I started to notice that he never goes on a second date or even contacts the person again. I was always confused because from the way he acts with me and friends, he seems like a super nice and likable guy. And if it isn't him, it's still a little odd for every girl he's been on a date with to have had something wrong about them to where it never works out. Well, last night I finally found out. He went on a date with a close friend of mine, 19-year-old female. He didn't know about our friendship. After their date, my friend, let's call her Kay, called me to tell me about an awful first date she just had. She basically said that he started off the date flirting super hard and making inappropriate jokes. After the date, which was a very quick one, he immediately asked her to take her home. She refused, but he insisted, and he kept asking until she finally left and drove home. But not straight home. She realized he was following her and had to drive to her brother's house until he finally drove away. He also harassed her through texts shortly after she arrived home. About an hour after that call, I get another call, this time from Steve. Guess what? He wanted to complain about his awful date. Basically, he told me that he was taking a new route home and some stupid witch claimed he was following her. I asked him, well, what happened during dinner? And he told me that it was completely unrelated. He went on a whole rant about these hateful messages she sent. I asked him, well, can I see the messages? And he got super defensive and told me no, and to take his word. At this point, I'm annoyed and a little mad, so I tell him that he's a literal creep and that this is probably normal behavior from him, and that any women he acted like this to had every right to not like them. Apparently my words and tone hurt his feelings because he started crying and saying he has no one and just wants someone to like him. I started to feel bad, so am I the jerk, or is he just playing victim and I'm slowly falling for it? Also, I'm meeting with my friend to hopefully contact Steve's past dates because this honestly seems like a problem. Little side note, I already have 2 of Steve's date stories, one being my friend and the other being a random girl he went out with. Both stories show similar, if not same behavior from Steve.
Am I the jerk for giving my nephews money for a field trip? My brother and his wife have 5 kids and now they're struggling financially, like a lot of families. I only have 2 and my ex and I make a lot of money, plus we're very tight with it. My 2 boys go to the same summer camp as their 2 oldest boys. When I dropped off my kids this morning, I ran into my nephews and spoke to them. The camp was going on a field trip to an amusement park. I noticed both boys had a lunch. I thought that was peculiar because other kids brought cash to buy lunch there, and for souvenirs. I asked them about it thinking my brother didn't know. They said their parents had money. I was like, screw that. I told them that I'd buy their lunch for $40 each. Of course, they took the offer. So I went to the ATM and gave their counselor $40 for each boy for lunch or whatever. When I picked up my sons, I asked my nephews what they did and what they bought and ate. Having the cash made a massive difference. 30 minutes ago, my brother texted me to tell me I should have ran the idea by him first. He said he felt like a horrible parent. I told him that $80 isn't a lot of money to me. That's like 2 hours of overtime. He should move on. The boys are 8 and 11. Am I wrong for this?
Am I the jerk for telling my stay-at-home mom wife to get a job? My wife and I have 2 kids, 7-year-old female and 2-year-old male. My wife's been a stay-at-home mum for 7 years now. I worked 2 jobs and had to get another job over the weekends to cover the extra bills after our 7-year-old had some health issues. Before my 3rd job, I did the housework over the weekends, and now I don't do anything around the house anymore. My wife said that she will also stop doing the housework so that I can see how much she actually does. I told her I know she does all the housework and I respect that. She also does the childcare, most of it. The past 2 weeks, my wife stopped doing any housework at all. No laundry, cooking, grocery shopping, etc. 2 days ago, I asked her why she hasn't been doing any work, and she said she wants a housekeeper, and we should put the 2-year-old male to kindergarten so that she can have time for herself. I told her we could only afford that if she gets a really good job. Which she won't because she's been out of her field for so long. She said she's done being my maid. I told her I work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m, and then 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. every weekday, and now also 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the weekend. I told her if she gets a job, not even a very high-paying one, I can quit one of my 3 jobs and take care of the kids too. That she doesn't have to be a stay-at-home mom. She called me a jerk for suggesting she doesn't do enough already and told me to just find more work and be a real provider. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for not defending my bio mum? I'm a female of 27, I'm a black woman, adopted into an Indian family. Important. I was adopted young, as my bio mum didn't want any children. When someone in my family got married, we all went, and it was a big party. Beautiful bridal jewellery, dresses, and so many colours. I loved it. Though marriage wasn't my end goal, I knew that when I had my wedding, it would be big and colourful. For more important information, my bio mother got in contact with my adopted mum 3 years ago, asking to meet me, and I did. I slowly allowed her back into my life. And though my mum and dad, adopted, didn't care much for her, they tried their best for me. And that brings us to now. I'm getting married soon, and we've been planning for a beautiful wedding. My fiancé and I are very excited, and so are my parents. In the early stages, I noticed my mum wasn't feeling a lot of the things we were doing, but I tried to keep her involved. Mum, do you want me to teach you how to drape a sari? I think you'd like it. Nah, my clothes are just fine. I've tried so hard to share the culture I grew up with her, but she just seemed so uncomfortable. Before the incident, I gifted her some gold earrings from when I went to India years back, and I found one on the floor, and I don't know where the other went, but I never brought it up since I figured it was an honest mistake. A couple weeks ago, me and my mum, adopted, were discussing my wedding dress and bridal jewellery, and when I mentioned the dress being red, my mum cut in. She was confused, so I showed her a picture, and my mum, adopted, asked what the problem was. Ignoring my adopted mum, she turns to me and says, "Me, I just always pictured my daughter in white for her wedding. Not all this." I explained to her that it was normal, but she continued. She talked down the dress and everything, especially the bridesmaids being too flamed up and taking the spotlight. I tried suggesting a second small wedding or even a white wedding shoot just so she can hang it up, but she wasn't having it. My mum said that I needed to stop trying to play dress up. My adopted mum then said she couldn't come, and I gently agreed. My bio mum won't speak to me now, and I feel like a big jerk. I feel like if I had educated her better, she wouldn't have been so blindsided. I don't want her to feel like I'm abandoning her. I just want her to be more considerate of the culture I was raised with. I know I can't ask my parents since they're biased, so I'll ask here, am I the jerk? How could I have handled this differently? Is probably going to end up being pretty inevitable.
Am I the jerk for not helping my ex-wife? Let me start this off by saying I, 45-year-old male, was an awful person in my 30s. I did drugs, I was selfish, I wrecked my marriage, and was horrible towards my then wife. At the end of our marriage she got pregnant but she miscarried, and that was what really ended the marriage. After the divorce I went to rehab, got clean, and have now been sober for 7 years. I got a good job and rented an apartment that I still live in. I even managed to save up some money. My life is really good now. I have an amazing fiancée. My ex moved on and remarried but never managed to have kids. She's 39 now and is trying to get pregnant via IVF. She recently contacted me and asked me to pay for the IVF treatment because she says the miscarriage she had caused her so many problems that she'll never get pregnant naturally. She has a minimum wage job and is paying off a lot of debt. So is her husband. And they can't afford IVF now. I told her I'll have to talk to my fiancé about it, but I don't feel comfortable paying for her IVF. I talked to my fiancé, she said that's a ridiculous request. I called my ex and told her, I won't be paying for the IVF. She called me selfish and said it's my fault that she can't get pregnant anymore because the miscarriage was my fault anyway. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for refusing to give my little cousin my stuffed animal? I, 20-year-old female, was gifted an adorable stuffed avocado from my boyfriend near the time he had asked me to officially be his girlfriend. I've cherished it ever since, even if it was something as simple as a small stuffed animal. Yesterday, my two little cousins, 10-year-old male and 7-year-old female, spent the night, and I allowed them to take to my room. In the morning when I entered my room, I saw that my 7-year-old cousin had dug through my stuff and found my stuffed avocado. She had instantly loved it and was playing with it. I just reminded her that it's not good to go through people's things, but I told her it was okay to play with it. She asked if she could have it, and I told her sorry that she couldn't, and it was mine. She became a little whiny, but I left her in the room and allowed her to play with it. When my uncles came to pick up my cousins, my little cousin still had the avocado in her hand and was showing my uncle. He kept insisting that she wanted it and was persistent about it. My uncle then came to me and had to ask me if she can have it. I told him sorry, but no, and didn't explain any further as I felt like I didn't need to. My little cousin then began to cry and whine about it. I told her it's okay because she had many other toys at home, and this one small thing is mine, so she can't have it. My uncle had a surprised, almost disappointed look on his face, but left with my little cousins as she continued to cry. I refused to let my guard down about it, but I'm not sure because it's a very small possession. I'm no one to judge someone else's parenting skills, but I've always felt my uncle greatly enabled my little cousin when he would judge my parents' parenting skills. So am I the jerk?
Royal AI.
Am I the jerk for telling my brother he would need to come to my wedding alone? If he wants an invitation? My brother's family is messy. He's been married 3 times, has 5 kids between the first 2 marriages, divorced wife number 3 a couple of years ago, and is currently dating a known alcoholic who still drinks. His first marriage ended because my brother decided he wanted to be with someone else. That relationship broke up. Wife number 2 came along not long after. They were married for 4 years, had 3 kids, one after the other, but ultimately she couldn't deal with my brother's oldest kids not wanting her around and treating her badly. That marriage ended more brutally than his first. More than a decade later, he was married to wife number 3 when the past came back up, and his kids from the second marriage started hating their older siblings for breaking up the family, while not being remorseful about it. The older kids said that they hadn't liked the younger kid's mum and had no regrets about pushing her out of their lives. They cannot be in the same room today without fighting. Between this and the kids of the second marriage disliking the third wife, that marriage ended. The older kids said it was funny how the younger ones didn't like their dad's wife, and that was okay, but they were horrible for not liking the younger sibling's mum. My brother tries to make everyone get along, but they don't want to. Now he's dating someone who's shown up drunk to so many things and has actually caused a couple of scenes. Because of this, I don't want them near my wedding, not my nieces and nephews, and not the new girlfriend. I brought this to my brother after he mentioned coming to my wedding. He told me at 55 he should be able to bring whoever he wants, and I should stop treating him like a child. But about me protecting my wedding, that I would only invite him if he comes alone. He believes I'm a jerk for putting a rule on him like this. Is he right?
Am I the jerk for telling my husband to quit calling me while I'm at work? I'm a 31-year-old female, an esthetician, and I do facials. I had a 90-minute one today. It's our most expensive. You're looking at around $200. I keep my phone on Do Not Disturb in the drawer so I can check in between clients if anyone was trying to get a hold of me or tell me something. Everyone that's important knows when I work, and they know to text. If they do call, they get the hint after the first try when it goes to voicemail. Today, my husband kept calling me repeatedly, and it started vibrating. It was during the facial massage, and the lady looked right at me. I didn't say anything since it was quiet, and that's supposed to be relaxing. So I finished up, and at the end I apologized. I said it was on Do Not Disturb, but they must have kept calling. She said she didn't even hear it. She seemed happy with everything. Tip of 20%, so all good. Well, after I saw it was my husband, and I got pissed. He's done this before. He knows to call the front desk if it's an emergency and text anything else, and I'll see it in between clients. It was 12:30. You know, I was working until 1. He had a tire appointment at 2, and was trying to tell me to take the around route home because there's a highway backup. Okay, he could have texted that, and I would have seen it when I'm leaving. So I blew up at him and told him to quit doing this, and I told him the client was mad, even though she wasn't. And he said, well, she can just stay mad. I told him to quit it, or I'll get fired, and he said, so? You don't want to work anyways. I only work a little bit, and it's just a small side income. He pays for everything, and I don't have to work. I complain a lot, but I do like it usually. He told me if I didn't want it to ring, then keep it in another room. Extremely inconvenient to check in between clients, especially to know if something is life or death. And it's my problem, not his. Anyways, I just learned I can turn it off. So repeat calls don't ring either. So I did that. Otherwise, I was just going to block him during work shifts.
Am I the jerk for telling my stepdaughter she can be whatever she wants on Halloween? So I, 27-year-old female, have the honor to be the stepmother of a sweet, imaginative, and wonderful little girl, 6. Her father and I get her every other weekend at the moment, and she lives with her mother and stepdad the rest of the time. We alternate holidays every year, for example. She was at her mom's last year for Halloween, so she'll be with us this year. One day, about 2 weeks ago, I was driving her back to our house, and the topic of what she wants to be for Halloween came up. This little girl had a 10-year plan for what she wants to dress up as. She stole me for a while now that she wants to be Ariel from The Little Mermaid this year. I told her that absolutely we can do that. Well, cut to yesterday. I'm driving her to our house after picking her up from her mom's house, and the topic of Halloween comes up again. It's her favorite holiday, as well as my own. She all of a sudden says, Jacob, not the real name of stepdad, says that Halloween's for scary things only, not cute things, that going as a mermaid was dumb. And she said her mom agreed. Luckily, we were at a red light, so I looked back at her. She was clearly upset and was starting to tear up. I was getting really upset with her. This is not the first time that her other parents have told her something was dumb or stupid for liking. I told her that Halloween is the time of year when you can be anything you want. That's the point. I told her that her idea was not stupid and that she'll be with us this year. So if she wants to go as Ariel or a barrel, we don't care, and she's going to be cute no matter what. She thought that going as a barrel was a funny idea and it made her laugh. However, she still thinks that going as a mermaid is stupid and is now trying to think of something scary. My heart hurts for her, but am I the jerk for going against her mother's feelings about Halloween? I'm always afraid of overstepping boundaries in that apartment. My husband says not to worry because she'll be with us, so she can pick whatever.
Am I the jerk for telling my stepsister that no one cares that she's tired and to help with dinner? I have a stepsister, Maddie, who I've never gotten along with. My mom married her dad when we were 12 and 13. My dad was pretty wealthy, or at least comparatively, so I got a lot of material things that Maddie didn't. Mostly clothes, nicer car, fancier prom dress, and it made Maddie insane. I wasn't showing off, but I feel like life isn't fair, and I have a right to accept gifts. It hurt Maddie's self-esteem to the point that she became sullen, depressed, and wouldn't talk to any of us. We're currently adults, and Maddie is, I'd say, definitely a millionaire. She threw herself into school and work and was determined she was going to have more than me. I'm middle class and don't really care. I mean, sometimes I get a little jealous of her clothes and jewelry, but to me, nothing is worth working like she does. Maddie is obsessed with things to the point it seems really toxic. She specifically said she doesn't want kids because she can't imagine taking the time off work to give birth and heal. I don't care if she doesn't want kids, but the reasoning was a bit, well, what the actual F for me. We both went to our parents' place for dinner last night, and Maddie was clearly tired. She could hardly keep her eyes open and was falling asleep in her husband's arms. We were both supposed to be helping with dinner, but her dad said to let her sleep. It didn't seem fair, so I tried to wake her up. Maddie yelled at me that she physically couldn't make dinner and to leave her alone. I told her that wasn't an excuse and no one cares if she's tired. She does this crap to herself and it's ridiculous. It isn't like she needs to work these hours. Her husband began yelling that we're the reason she needs to work these hours, and how could her dad marry my mom and let her grow up around all of my things, and that since it's our fault, we should let her sleep. Her dad agreed and told me to leave her alone, and Maddie ended up crying. She screamed at me that I'm mean, and it doesn't take 3 people to make dinner anyway. I said that isn't the point, and no one cares about her sob story about not having designer clothes as a kid.
Am I the jerk for calling up my boyfriend's daughter for lying? I live with my boyfriend and his 3 elementary school-aged children who are here 50% of the time. We all have a pretty great relationship, although it was a bit of a transition for me as I don't have kids of my own. Despite this, we've adjusted to our roles relatively well, and while I don't consider myself a parent, they have an involved mother. I am a trusted adult that helps them when needed, plays with them, upholds the rules in our home, etc. The middle child's 9, and she's a sweet kid, and we love each other. though she has some behavior issues that her parents have put her in therapy for. This morning, everyone was downstairs. They're all early risers, but I'm not. While I was upstairs in our room in bed. I was awake for a while, and I knew my boyfriend was making breakfast. I make a work call and was talking for no more than 5 minutes when I got a call on my other phone from my boyfriend, sounding really irritated, saying, "What are you doing? Are you going to come down or not?" I said I was on a phone call, but that I would be down in a little bit. A minute later, he comes up the stairs, demanding to know what was going on and why I wasn't coming down. I muted my call and said I was working, and why was he so angry? He said that he had sent his middle child, 9-year-old female, up to get me, to tell me that breakfast was ready multiple times, but that she kept saying that I told her I was working and wasn't going to come down, which never happened. She had never opened the door, or even knocked. I said that never happened. She never spoke to me or came to get me that morning. I could hear her arguing on the other side of the door to her dad, and I repeated that she did not come upstairs at all. So what she told him was not true. Eventually, I went downstairs for breakfast, and she was sitting at the table quiet and sullen. Am I the jerk for calling out a 9-year-old for lying?
Am I a jerk for not sharing my Wi-Fi password with my mom and younger brother? I, male, 19-year-old, had lost access to Wi-Fi along with the rest of my family, consisting of mom, 43 years old, and younger siblings, brother of 18 and sister of 10. During the pandemic, my father, the breadwinner, who doesn't live with us, decided to stop paying for Wi-Fi. He claimed it was due to slow business from pandemic restrictions. I tried protesting, but my father argued that I had a job. This only paid the minimum wage, by the way. The family went without Wi-Fi for about a week until I got fed up. I talked to my brother and mom, who both had a job, about splitting the cost of a Wi-Fi subscription. They refused, with my brother saying he could get Wi-Fi at work. My mom telling me she didn't need it because of her unlimited mobile data. I reluctantly applied to my ISP for the cheapest package available, determined to not share my password with them with the exception of my helpless kid sister. A couple days after the Wi-Fi router was installed, my mom came asking me for the password, to which I simply responded saying, "I thought you didn't need it." She complained that her mobile data didn't work that well sometimes, so I proposed she pay half the bill in exchange for my Wi-Fi key. She got furious, telling me I don't pay rent and bills and that I'm under her roof. I reminded her that she doesn't pay these bills either. It's my dad. Desperate to get back at me, she decided that I can't use her TV in the living room anymore and hid the remote. I'll admit at first I was annoyed, but quickly got over it considering she hogs the TV most of the time anyway. My mom now ignores me, calls me selfish, and doesn't share anything with me anymore. So am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for not allowing my friend to stay with me after they were kicked out of their house? I, 18-year-old female, live alone in a 2-bedroom house. My job requires I work 60 hours every week. Anything above 60 is considered overtime. 60 hours is still overtime, but no one calls it that since it's mandatory. I would also like to add that I work graveyard, 5:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. That being said, I'm tired once I get home and rarely have enough energy to be around people. When I do see people, I always go out and meet them at their homes or around the city. Never, and I mean never, have I had people come to my house other than my significant other. No one knows where I live, and I'd like to keep it that way. I wouldn't say I'm paranoid. I just don't like the idea of people knowing where I live. It's nothing personal against anyone. I like my privacy.
Not even my parents or siblings know where I live, and they respect me enough not to ask. The situation began a week ago when my friend, 20-year-old female of about 3 years, called while I was at work, around 2 a.m., and asked if I would let them stay with me because her dad kicked them out for a reason they wouldn't tell me. I told them no. I said, "Hello, is everything all right? Why are you calling me at 2 in the morning? Shouldn't you be asleep?" She says, "Hi, could I ask you a huge favor?" I say, "What is it?" She says, "Can I stay with you for a while? 2 months, maximum. My dad kicked me out and you're the first person to answer me all night." I say, "No, you may not." "What?" She says, "Are you serious?" I say, "Completely." After that, she said I was a jerk for leaving her on the street and that I'm probably lying about having a house since no one's been to it. She has a boyfriend and siblings who also have houses. I'm not understanding why she couldn't go to one of them or to a shelter for the night since, well, it was night and people would probably answer her in the morning. Her boyfriend later that Monday let me know she's going to be staying with him and apologized for her calling me while at work. Her friends contacted me through social media, none of whom I've ever met or really even know the names of, telling me I was a jerk and that I should have swallowed my pride and let her stay with me. Our shared friends have sided mostly with me, with the exception of 2. Even if I didn't have a problem with people being at my house, she's a personal trainer that only does video meets. It's basically the same as following a YouTube workout video, except it's live and one-on-one. I sleep during the day, and I'm a light sleeper. Can you see how her working out and talking to people at home would be a problem for me? So, am I the jerk for not wavering on my privacy boundaries?
Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law and his wife that we won't be doing any more kids sitting during the summer? I, 40-year-old male, and my wife, 37-year-old female, agreed to kids sit for her brother and his wife for 2 weekends while they go to Europe. The kids are 2 boys, one 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. A few days ago, we get a food detailed email for procedures for the week. How this email also details how both kids' behaviours have been getting worse. So, needless to say, it's going to be a ton of work and we'll be giving up 2 weekends. His wife has already started to ask my wife about babysitting during the week when he isn't in daycare and they're working from home. She really doesn't want to do it because she's busy with work and they kind of screwed her last summer. However, she's nervous about upsetting her brother. Would I be the jerk if I put my foot down and told them no, that I nor her will watch them anymore this summer?
Am I the jerk for demanding that my girlfriend pay for herself when I cook? Background: been dating for 2 months. My girlfriend, 23, works a full-time job and lives at home with her mom. In other words, no lack of funds. Me, 25, student with a part-time job and a relatively expensive apartment. In other words, pretty slim budget. Problem: since I'm the one with a private apartment, we spend most of our time together here. And then it's natural that she eats my food. I have no problem with cooking a little bit of extra food, since I think most of the food I cook is delicious, but cheap. I also regularly drive her around since she doesn't have a car or license. The other night I hosted a dinner party with some friends and made pizza along with wine for the guests. The next day I asked everyone to pay for their share. My girlfriend was the only one to object. She said that it wasn't fitting to ask money of a partner, and was extra upset that I hadn't informed her previously. I got mad since I don't want to pay for company, even if it is gifts, and I feel not appreciated since I regularly cook for her and drive her around without asking for compensation. So Reddit, am I the jerk here?
Am I the jerk for tearing the family apart over a few harmless comments? I, 22-year-old female, got engaged in January to my boyfriend, 26-year-old male, of 4 years. And I've never had much of a problem with his mother before. I'd like to emphasize that she's a very kind person and has always had a lot of patience for me in my less than ideal family situation, including teaching me how to cook and other life things. Recently, though, she's begun to send me and other family members text messages about wanting grandchildren. Such light skin, you'll have such pretty babies. And most of her other texts are all variations of my skin and future grandchildren. It made me uncomfortable, but I wasn't really sure how to address it without crossing a line, so I'll be honest, I just left it alone. My mother-in-law has also apparently made comments to my younger sister-in-law that she wants a light granddaughter, and that we, my fiancé and me, will keep trying until we get one. It's gotten to the point of obsession to where she'd text my fiancé every day asking when we'll have kids, even though we originally planned to wait at least a few more years. She's never mentioned my skin or lightness to him as far as I know. It all came to a head last night when mother-in-law was talking with her sister about us having kids, and my older sister-in-law asked why she was so sure we were having a light baby, and my mother-in-law replied, "Well, oh peace, oh pale. It would be impossible if she didn't." My older sister-in-law got upset and made a comment about her obsession with being white and stormed out. The dinner just kind of ended a while after that, and I guess my younger sister-in-law talked to my fiancé because this morning he asked him to tell him what was going on. I just showed him the text and he got into a fight with his mom and stepdad about her comments. And apparently this isn't the first time she's made statements like this around my older sister-in-law. Now the whole family is fighting. One side's calling my fiancé, my older sister and I, sensitive, while the others are glad someone's finally said something. I also got a text from my mother-in-law's sister saying we're selfish and awful for ripping the family apart over a few harmless comments. To top it all off, I'm pregnant, and I'm not even sure if I should say anything, even though I'd planned on letting everyone know at dinner. So, I guess, are we the jerks?
Am I the jerk for copying my coworker's outfit? I, female 22, work at a Walgreens part-time. My coworker Anna, not her real name, has a great sense of style. I love her outfits, and one time she came to work a little more dressed up because she had a date later. I told her I loved her outfit, and I asked her where she bought her boots, pants, shirts, sweater, and jewelry. She told me where she got everything, and I went to the same stores. Unfortunately, they didn't have my size in the stores. I could only order them online. I decided to buy similar pieces at stores I regularly shop at to recreate the look. I wore the outfit on a date, and ended up running into Anna. When I went to work the next day, she gave me heck for copying her style. I admitted I copied her, but I didn't see what the big deal was. I would never wear the outfit in front of her or at work. I also had different pieces on. I brought up how she told me where to buy all the pieces, and she said she thought I was just making conversation. Anna said if she knew I was actually going to buy them, she wouldn't have told me where to go. I apologized to her and told her I had no intention of stealing her style. I'm a t-shirt and jeans person, but I really liked that outfit she wore and I wanted it. Anna told me to return the pieces, and I told her no. I agreed to never wear those pieces in front of her or at work. She told me that wasn't enough and I had to return the clothes and promised to never copy her again. If I didn't, she would tell all our coworkers. I beat her to it and showed them a picture of myself in the outfit with my boyfriend. They all took my side since the clothes looked so different on me. Anna's style is cute, delicate, and highly feminine. I bought similar pieces in different colors and cuts to flatter my body, so I gave off a tomboy look. Everyone agreed what I did was okay. Anna was really upset and is giving everyone the silent treatment. Personally, I think she was overreacting because it was just one outfit. I could be the jerk because I did copy her.
Am I the jerk for skipping my only sister's wedding? I'm 22-year-old female. My sister, 24-year-old female, asked me to be her maid of honor a few months ago. Since then, she's not included me in any of the wedding planning, told me she doesn't want a bachelorette party, and decided to do her wedding in a different country where her fiancé is from. She's staying in that country, I won't say where since she might see this post, for a couple of months before the wedding to help furnish the house, plan the wedding, etc. My sister asked me to spend about a month and a half in that country to help her plan wedding stuff. I was able to come here for that month since I just graduated college and have some time before I start work. However, since I've gotten here, my sister's gone out every single day with her fiancé, let's call him Max, and his family, and has not invited me out. Except once, I had a conversation with her about how I'm in a foreign country, so I'm not comfortable going out alone when I know nobody here. Also, the only reason I'm here is for her. She called me inconsiderate and selfish, saying I should be prioritising her needs since the wedding is in a month. We've been arguing every day about random or petty things since I have been here. The last straw was when I went out to buy fabric for my dress for the wedding. We had agreed on a colour and getting the dress custom made once I got the fabric. My sister, unsurprisingly, did not want to come dress shopping with me because she was with Max's family. When I got home, she was upset that I got the fabric for the dress without her, despite me telling her before going. She said she thought I'd wait to buy it when we were together. Mind you, I'm paying for my dress, and she didn't offer to pay for it at any point. We got past that conversation and started discussing the design of the dress. My sister got upset at the design I chose because it wasn't modest enough for her Maxie's conservative family. It was an off-shoulder maxi dress with literally no cleavage showing, not a bodycon, a line with a slit up to the knee. She told me, since it's her wedding and she wants to go for a certain look in her pictures, that she should pick the style of my dress. I agreed with the condition that I have to like the design too. The fabric getting the dress made would cost around $400. So I want to be able to wear this dress again at some point. She picked out a very ugly long sleeve dress that looks very much like mother of the bride dresses. When I kept telling her this wasn't my style and I wouldn't feel comfortable in it, she said I was being inconsiderate and told me she'd wear a sparkly red cupcake gown to my wedding. My wedding is next year. I end the conversation by telling her that I'm not catering my style to Max's family, and I'm not dropping $400 on a dress I don't even like. She said if I don't care about what she wants, then I shouldn't come to the wedding. Am I the jerk for still getting the dress I want made? I am her only sister and maid of honor.
Am I the jerk for not consulting my boyfriend before accepting male clients? I work at a pretty well-known 3-letter waxing establishment and was hired to perform services to both men and women. Recently, my book was going to be open to perform the male Brazilian, which means more money with a niche clientele, because a lot of my coworkers don't feel comfortable. I personally don't care. Here's where I need judgment. I accepted because, again, I don't care. I'd rather not work on anyone because they deal with some interesting netherworlds region, but it's part of the job that I accepted. My boyfriend's upset that I didn't discuss with him before accepting, and felt disrespected and angry that I would be willing to work with and touch other men. This was mainly resolved where I won't be performing any services on men, but I'm still curious. Am I the jerk, actually?
Royal AI.
Would I be the jerk if I decline a child's party at my home? My son Josh and his partner of 4 years, Sheila, just parted ways. Sheila has been accusing my son of cheating. She has been living with us for the entirety of their relationship. Due to lockdowns, Josh has been staying in his place of work, along with some of the employees, and is rarely home. When Sheila told me about her suspicion, I told her that she could go and stay with my son and his accommodations, since his company allows wives to stay there, so she could confirm if her suspicions are correct. She declined, saying she's afraid of what she might find out. I said she shouldn't be afraid, and that as she just gets one bit of proof, I would personally whoop my son's butt in his workplace and would ban him from ever coming home to us and disown him. Sheila still declined, but I was made aware that she's been maligning my son and the supposed other woman on social media, to the point that both have been harassed, and the woman in question was contemplating on filing a case against Sheila. Sheila was the one who ended the relationship and moved out of our house with no warning. She just came home from work one day with some of her coworkers and gathered all of her belongings and took the baby without a word. I cried for a week. That was 3 months ago, and my son stopped giving financial support because Sheila's keeping the child away from him. He was anticipating that Sheila would file a case and showed up, so he could ask the court for time to see and be with his child at least once or twice a week, or a maximum of 4 to 5 days in a month, to which Sheila is vehemently against. She's only allowing 1 day of visitation on the condition that my son should be the one to go to their place, where her whole family lives, to visit the child and not take the child anywhere else. They're set to resume mediation next week. Just this morning, Sheila called me to ask if she could use my home, which has a fairly large garden, for the child's upcoming first birthday. She said she thinks our place is the best venue since my 85-year-old mom, who can't walk without assistance and has comorbidities, can attend the said event, which she won't be able to do if the event is held elsewhere. Some of whom have left hurtful comments on our post, hence the need for a big space. My daughter heard our entire conversation, was on loudspeaker since I was busy cooking, and was bewildered why I would ever consider Sheila's request. To think that since she left, Sheila has never contacted any of us, nor agreed to let my mom see her great-grandchild during my mom's birthday a week ago, where I invited her and her parents to come. She may be right in saying that Sheila is only using my mom as an excuse to avoid paying for a venue. So would I be the jerk if I declined Sheila's request, considering that the party's for my grandchild, that I haven't seen for 3 months now?
Am I the jerk for making my sister-in-law feel like crap about her weight? 35-year-old female, and my sister-in-law is 46-year-old female. I have 3 children, the oldest being 16-year-old male. For my birthday last week, my son went out and bought me this swinging hammock chair that I've been wanting for 2 years. And it cost him quite a bit of his saved money, which I fully intend to put back into his bank account so he can continue saving. He was so excited to see me open this gift and couldn't wait to help me set it up. I told him he shouldn't have, that it was a lot of money, and his response was, "You never get anything nice. I wanted you to have it." And it was true. I usually don't get anything for my birthday or Christmases outside of Tupperware or soaps. So it might sound stupid, but I've cherished this swing ever since he got it for me. Especially where I finally have something nice that's mine. My sister-in-law comes over once a week to see all of us, and she immediately headed straight for my swing, which my son hooked up on our deck. I told her to please not sit on it, and she said, "Is there a weight limit?" So I told her yes, £250. And I even showed her the box to confirm. She wasn't upset about this, she just said, "That's a bummer. They need to make something more capable of holding us big girls." I simply agreed with her and went about my business. At this point, my husband shows up from work. When I went inside to grab some drinks, her and my husband are talking on my porch. And not even 5 minutes later, I hear a loud crash, and my husband say, "Oh damn, are you all right?" I go out, and sure enough, she had sat in my swing, and the crochet netting around the hook snapped on one side, causing her to fall right on her butt. She's sitting there laughing, gets up and says, "I guess I need to learn to listen." So I lost it. As I said above, I literally never get anything nice. Never. This is the one thing that I had that was mine, and it didn't even take someone a freaking week before they ruined it for me. So I said, "I literally just freaking told you not even 20 minutes ago that it would not hold you, and to please not freaking sit in it." She makes some comment about, "Usually the weight limit's a lie, so I thought it would hold." So I said, "The weight limit probably would have held you if you were only 50 pounds heavier, not 150. She's 420-ish pounds because she's one of those girls who eats food on camera for money, and she absolutely loves her weight. But regardless, instead of apologising or offering to compensate me for my destroyed item, She's resorted to saying that I'm a crap bag for making her feel like her weight is a problem, and my husband's on her side. It's just a freaking swing. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for not correcting my son when he told his stepfather to slash my husband off? I have been married to my husband Jeremy since my son Chris was 8. He's now 17. My husband and him have a fantastic relationship, despite what the title may sound like. My birthday's in 2 weeks, and I honestly haven't put much thought into it. My husband's not a gift giver. He says he has a hard time figuring out what to get and doesn't want to waste money on something that people won't use. He's also just a practical person, whereas I'm by far the sentimental type. So even when he does get me something, it's something I can use every day. Which, no big deal obviously, but I've requested some sentimental pieces and he just never gets them. So I pretty much gave up on ever asking for anything, and it did really bother me for a number of years, but it truly doesn't bother me now usually. Well, my son graduated a year early and doesn't start college until next year, so he currently works 2 jobs, his choice. I've asked him to cut back and enjoy his teen years before adulthood, but working just makes him happy. So he works at a mechanic shop and a junkyard. Most of his buddies work there too, so at least he's getting in time with friends. Well, my husband hates spending money and tries inflicting that on us. He lives as frugally as physically possible and saves every single dime that he can. He could retire right this second and wouldn't be able to go through all the money he saved. My son comes home last night with 3 of his buddies that work with him, and he's like, "Open this, please open it now," while presenting me a present. My husband immediately was like, "Wow, how much did that cost? That could have went into a Roth IRA account." My son immediately shot cold daggers at my husband and says, "It's truly none of your business what I do with my money, and since you outright refuse to buy my mother nice things that she absolutely deserves, I'll make sure she gets something nice. And for the record, we made this ourselves. Didn't cost us anything." My husband just stops talking, looks at me waiting for me to say something, and when I don't, he shakes his head and walks off. After the boys leave, he says I allowed Chris to embarrass him in front of other people, and I should have said something. I simply told him that Chris was right. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for going to a restaurant someone forbid me to? I, female 36, married Jeff, male 39, 2 years ago. He has a daughter, Alicia, 16, from his previous marriage, and I have a daughter, Morgan, 12, from my previous marriage as well. Alicia isn't closer to me nor Morgan, and she always has something to be upset about. For example, when me and Morgan moved in with her and Jeff, she tried to control where we can and can't go, what areas I was allowed to redecorate and put my furniture in, what room Morgan got, etc. Her excuse was that she wanted to keep the house how her mum left it as much as possible. Jeff asked us to be more patient, and she'd come around eventually. She did come around, but still tries to control other areas of mine and Morgan's life. I had a million conversations that ended up with her throwing a tantrum. Jeff talked to her and told her not to try to control what Morgan and I do, ever, and she agreed. Morgan's birthday was days ago. We planned to celebrate at a restaurant and let Morgan choose which one. She picked a really nice restaurant that isn't over-the-top expensive, and we agreed the party would be there. However, when Alicia heard which restaurant we were going to, she went off on me and Morgan and said that we can't go to that restaurant because she had tons of memories there of her perfect old family, and she won't let us taint the memory for her. I found this beyond illogical and unreasonable. I told her she could stay home, but she said it wasn't about her being there. It was about the idea of me and Morgan being there with Jeff as family when it used to be her mum, and Jeff. We got into an argument and Jeff told me to tell Morgan to just pick another restaurant, but I snapped and told him Alicia had no right to dictate where me and my daughter go, and he shouldn't be encouraging her. He told me he wasn't encouraging anything, just trying to keep all parties satisfied. He told me to get Morgan to change the restaurant, or he won't go. That was it for me. I decided I wasn't going to change it just because they wanted me to, and ended up going with Morgan to celebrate with just my mum. Morgan, of course, felt upset that her stepdad missed her birthday celebration. When I pointed this out to him, he argued that I literally gained nothing by insisting on this particular restaurant and upsetting Alicia, who is refusing to speak to any of us, even him, and ruined his relationship with Morgan. I said it was Morgan's choice, but he said I was the adult in the situation and have failed to navigate through it. Am I the jerk for still going to the restaurant, although Alicia forbid us from it?
Am I the jerk for keeping the whereabouts of runaway cousin's secret from her family? I'm a 19-year-old female. My cousin, 30-year-old female, ran away from home a couple of weeks ago. And I say runaway because it's illegal for single women to live on their own in our country. If you want to rent a place, you gotta either have a husband or a brother or any other man with you, or otherwise a family member. Her family is absolutely horrible, and I know that their description of her as a mentally unstable woman is due to their own abuse, and she'd be much better off without them. So, when my cousin moved away, she cut off contact with the whole family except for me, and I know where she went, but I chose to deny knowing anything about what happened or where she was to ensure that they won't use me to get to her in any way. Now, my other cousin, her sister, followed me to the campus cafeteria and overheard me talking to her, and she completely lost her crap. She told me she knew I was hiding something and that I watched them go without sleep for several nights, and whether I enjoyed putting them through this. She said that my cousin was mentally unstable, and there's tons of predators around who could take advantage of her as a lone woman, and that I put her in severe danger by keeping it from her family. She said that they had to file a missing report, and the whole family was in a mess thinking something happened to her. She said I was really heartless and merciless for having done this to them and demanded I tell them their whereabouts. Even though I was shaken by the guilt and the heat of the moment at the time, I still insisted that I only knew she ran away, but really didn't know where she was, and refused to give her my phone to check whether it's true. After she was gone, I deleted our conversations and her number just in case. But I still feel quite conflicted about this, and whether I really should have at least told them she ran away of her own volition and not kidnapped, etc. Or I could potentially put her in danger by not divulging her whereabouts since she might harm herself. Am I the jerk here?
Am I the jerk for accepting a free place to stay for college and not asking for my stepbrother to have the same? I got accepted into the college of my choice in another state. Almost immediately after I told my family, my paternal grandparents offered to let me stay in a house they own, so I won't have to pay rent. I accepted. My mom and stepdad asked my grandparents about my stepbrother staying there also, since he was going to a college close to mine. My grandparents said the offer was only open to me, their grandson. This was badly received by my mom, stepdad, and stepbrother, who all think he should be offered the same offer. I have been under a lot of pressure from my mom, stepdad, and stepbrother to advocate for him to stay in the house with me, or to turn down the offer if they refuse. I don't want to do this. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for snapping at my younger sister and telling her my husband wasn't Prince Charming? My younger sister was 9 when I married my husband, and I'm pretty sure she's had a crush on him since. Over the last 7 years, she's completely romanticized our relationship to the point where she constantly makes comments about hoping to marry someone like him, even though she barely knows him. And I've told her repeatedly that life isn't just happy social media pictures. I've been staying with my mum and stepdad for the last month, and in that time, all my sister wants to do is talk about my husband. He's the last person I want to talk about right now, so hearing about how wonderful and perfect he is constantly has been making me angry. Yesterday, I finally snapped at her when her and some of my younger cousins were talking about boys, and my sister brought up my husband. She was saying how she wished her parents knew someone like my husband so she could meet her Prince Charming too. For context, I met my husband through my dad. When she said this, I snapped at her that my husband wasn't Prince Charming. My sister went quiet and quickly left the room. I did feel bad and tried to talk to her, but she locked her door and wouldn't let me in. She's since told her parents and my husband. My mum told me that while she understood why I said it, I shouldn't have shattered my sister's fantasy just because mine has been, and that the version of my husband my sister thinks is real is the one she wants to marry, not the reality. She also said I embarrassed my sister in front of our cousins, and that's why she doesn't want to speak to me. My husband's been sending me condescending texts about how he disagreed since he was very charming and saying I used to be sweet. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for returning the money my husband took from my family for attending our cookout? For context, my female 28, husband, male 33, comes from a wealthy family, and he himself has inherited a number of assets from his relatives. One of them is a huge house where we live right now, with a pool and a huge backyard with lots of features. We decided to host our first cookout after we got married, 7 months ago, and we invited both his and my family. That was on Friday. Both families came and we had lots of fun, then everyone went home later. I then got a phone call from Mom, and she didn't sound okay. She asked whether or not my husband took money from his family before they attended the cookout. I was confused. I asked what she was talking about, and she told me that my husband charged every single person from my side of the family who attended the event $25. I was utterly shocked and very angry and felt like this has legitimately damaged my relationship with most of my family, because almost all of them came over. Not just that, but he got $275 from them. I was so livid I hung up the phone and confronted him immediately. He told me my family got to enjoy the space and view and said that I should think of it as a resort cookout since this house has lots of luxuries. I told him it was a horrible thing for him to do, and that what made it worse is the fact that his family didn't pay like mine had to. He laughed and then reminded me that his family gave him this house. I demanded he give the money back, but he said no, and that he won't even give it to me since the house is technically his. I went and took the money and gave everyone who paid their money back with a sincere apology from me. My husband found out and flipped out at me, calling what I did overstepping and disrespectful. I told him he shouldn't have taken money from my family for being guests at our house, but he corrected me saying it's his house, and that he'd bet my family never got to attend a cookout at a house like this, and that it was just $25. But I disrespected him and went behind his back and took money that wasn't mine. We stopped talking after this argument, and he keeps venting to his mom about me taking his money that he earned his own way.
Am I the jerk for leaving my fiancé at the mall after he insisted that I buy him a $350 watch? Me, female 32, and my fiancé, male 30, Aaron, have been together for 2 years. I have a high-paying job and work long hours. He used to do a 3-week shift and a job that paid 5 times less than mine. We're on pretty great terms on everything except money. He's a big spender and spends so much on fancy stuff, although his job doesn't give him this luxury. He constantly likes and wants new stuff like watches, gadgets, electronics, and car accessories, and I do my best to use every occasion like Christmas and birthdays and New Year to get him what he wants. I've been noticing him tagging along whenever I go shopping, then having me buy him expensive stuff right there and then. I end up paying to avoid causing a scene in public because he'd beg me and then start throwing a fit if I refuse. I talked to him about it since it seemed like a pattern, but he said he just happened to see something he liked and thought I could pay for it. I told him I'm no longer feeling comfortable with this and that the next time he tries to put me on the spot, then have me pay for something he likes, then throw a tantrum if I refuse, then I'd walk out and leave him there. He crossed his heart and said he'd never do such a thing. On Wednesday, we went to the mall to get a Father's Day gift for my dad, and we walked by the accessory store. Aaron told me to stop and follow him as he entered the store. I knew this wasn't going well because he repeatedly tried on this watch that was worth over $350 and expressed his admiration for it. He then asked if I could pay for it, but I said no and lied about having only $300 for my dad's gift, which is why we were there in the first place. He then started going on and on about how cool and catch the watch was, then asked if my dad was more important than him. I looked around and saw people looking at us as he started raising his voice. I told him to knock it off, but he refused and insisted I pay for it. I just turned around and walked out of the store and out of the mall. I got in my car and went home. He started calling me nonstop, but we didn't talk till he got home. He blew up saying that I reacted ridiculously and selfishly after he begged me and I refused. He said that I made a joke out of him by walking out and leaving him at the mall. I told him what I said would happen if he decided to put me in this position again. He argued that all he was asking for was just $350 and even showed me a small notebook saying he's been writing. He yelled at me, then went out to meet with his friends. His best friend tried to get involved by shaming me for how I behaved at the mall and hinting that what I was doing was borderline financial control. Am I the jerk? Should I have just paid for the watch?
Am I the jerk for refusing to ground my son when he called my father-in-law pathetic? My husband and I have 2 kids, Ryder, 21-year-old male, and Juliet, 16-year-old female. Both of them are close to both sets of grandparents and visit them regularly. Juliet is discovering her style and she's experimenting with clothes, hairstyles, and makeup. Ryan gave her a sewing machine last month and she kinda went nuts with this, doing a lot of pieces for fun. Since Julie's still a minor, we set a few. There's still things she shouldn't wear, like no see-through things, no large cleavage, and no minis. She's always mixing patterns, colors, prints and textures, pants under skirts, dresses as cardigans, big earrings and necklaces, etc. Sometimes it does feel like too much, but that's just fashion, isn't it? She seems happy and we don't think it's fair to call her outfits ugly when she's just having fun and experimenting. She still tones it down when it comes to family gatherings because she's afraid people will say something. It's important to add that Ryder 100% supports and encourages his sister. Most of the funny jewelry that Julie owns are things Ryder bought for her, and as I said, he gave her a sewing machine recently. She also makes him shirts and is trying to make him a jacket. Yesterday was Ryder's 21st birthday, and we decided to have a small party just with family. Julie asked Ryder what would be his theme so she could dress accordingly, but he said she could dress however she wanted, and I swear, you could see Julie's eyes sparkling. She ended up wearing a weird combination but looked happy, and Ryder said she looked pretty. As soon as everyone starts to come, they eye Julie, but nobody says anything. I noticed my father-in-law making a face, and when he wants to give Ryder a few words, he says,
"It's time to address the elephant in the room. Juliet looks awful. Go change to normal clothes, little girl."
Ryder just rolls his eyes and says that a 70-year-old man bullying a 16-year-old is pathetic. They start to fight and my father-in-law demands I punish my son, but my husband and I refuse. We both said, "Well, you made Julie cry."
Am I the jerk because I told my daughter it's wrong to let her brother, her cousin, and others get married at her home, but not allow her sister to do so? My second eldest child has gotten engaged. She's in the process of planning her wedding next year. My eldest child and her husband own a ranch and farm in our neighboring state. She's hosted weddings before. My youngest got married to his wife there. My niece got married to her husband there. I know she's done the same for one or two of her husband's relatives also. My second eldest wanted to have the wedding there. My eldest originally said yes, however she changed her mind when more details about the guest list came out. She was made aware that my second eldest daughter would have a large guest list. Her and her fiancé intended to invite around 600 to 700 people to the wedding. Between families, friends, and colleagues, they knew a lot of people who would attend. Plus, the staff or catering, setup, and other logistics can easily bring the total of bodies to 1,000. My eldest has a large property. It can take hours to drive from one end to the other, and on horses or on foot, it can take over a day to get there and back. It would be understandable if she had a normal house that all these people wouldn't fit on. However, the property is large. She said any weddings or events she's ever had have never been more than 100 or so bodies, including staff, and she's never had something so large. Although she's never charged a fee or any money to host weddings, my second eldest daughter was willing to pay her, even though everyone else used it for free. However, my eldest still backed out. There's a wedding planner who will have charge over the staff, will take care of any logistics, and who has insurance, so everything would be controlled. My eldest is still saying no now. My wife and I told her it was wrong to open her space to her brother and others, but not her sister, as well as to back out over the size of the guest list when the property has so much room. My eldest wasn't happy to hear this. She got into an argument about it. I'm disappointed my eldest is denying her sister what so many others have been allowed to enjoy, as the property is a beautiful place for a wedding, and they have more than enough room.
I married my husband 3 years ago. He was divorced and previously widowed. He has 2 daughters, Annie, who is now 26, I believe, from his first marriage, and Amy, who is 17, from his second. My husband told me about his late wife, his ex-wife, the issues they had as a blended family when he remarried, and Annie was not on board with him remarrying, and the fact that this strain ended his second marriage. He was also honest that Annie never forgave him for remarrying, and never wanted anything to do with Amy or him after she turned 18. What he didn't tell me was the major role he played in all of this. I found this out 3 weeks ago at a dinner with his extended family. The story, as I now know it, when Amy was around 5 years old, she took a special interest in a necklace that belonged to his late wife. My husband gave the necklace to Amy, which upset Annie because all her mother's possessions were meant to go to her. My husband told Annie that it was just one item and she needed to get over it, because Amy was entitled to have something too. Annie brought up that it was the piece her mother wore the most. My husband told her that it was a special gift to give to her sister, that she was being selfish. His ex-wife told her that her mother would want someone as special as your sister to have a piece of her as well. Annie never got over it. She tried to take it from Amy and was punished. The last time she saw any of them, she told them to all go to freaking heck. Amy still has the necklace too. She's let it get into a bad way and talks about it as if her dad bought it for her. I was shocked. I never would have expected my husband to be that way. He was very unapologetic about it and told me Annie would have to get over it someday. I told him that he should be ashamed of himself, that he should have allowed Annie's mother's possessions to be hers to do with as she chose, that Amy didn't give a crap about his late wife or the significance of those items, but Annie would have. I told him he'll be incredibly lucky if his daughter ever speaks to him again, and I wouldn't blame her if she never did. He was furious I judged him. His family said I should take my husband's side over his daughter, who I didn't even know, except for the nephew and niece who told the story, because they also think my husband did a messed up thing. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for flipping out on my roommate when she tried to ban drinking and alcohol from our apartment? I, 26-year-old female, have lived with my friend, we'll call her Amy, 27-year-old female, for a few years now. We've always had fun and typically get along super well. Amy has a tendency to be, what I like to call, a relationship chameleon. Whoever she's currently dating, she starts to mimic their likes and behaviors. This guy she's been dating for maybe 2 months apparently went through rehab for alcoholism and has been in recovery for a few years now. I know getting sober isn't easy, and I respect the strength that it takes to work through that. Well, a couple of weeks ago, Amy announced that she's giving up alcohol in solidarity with him. Okay, cool. She's never been a big drinker, so no big deal. She became a vegan for the last guy, because he was. Now she's eating meat like Tarzan. But that besides the point. She went right back to meat as soon as he ended things. The time before she talked about converting to Judaism because when they have kids, the mother had to be Jewish, etc., etc. None of her other relationship trends have ever affected me or my lifestyle. Right after announcing her newly sober lifestyle, she starts being judgmental and pushy. We have a bar cart that was pretty pricey that's well stocked. She told me we need to get rid of it. I said absolutely not. She then said I can keep it, but it needs to go in my room. Once again, no, we live in the city. Bedrooms are small. I only drink on weekends because my work is intense and wake early. A bunch of us were out to dinner and she complained we were making her uncomfortable for having drinks and said we should respect her. The final straw was last night. My boyfriend came over, Amy was out with her boyfriend, and I made us a super nice meal. He brought over nice wine. A and her boyfriend come home early. He goes into her room, and she freaks out saying how she told me she had banned alcohol from our apartment. I snapped and told her she's ridiculous. This is my apartment, and that when this guy eventually gets sick of her, she'll be drinking again. I also told her I was sick of her crap, and that the apartment was in my name only. I lived here with another friend prior, and she needs to move out. She grabbed sober boyfriend and stormed out. I can't keep living like this. Am I the jerk for snapping on her and telling her to move out? I can afford my place solo. The stress she's causing isn't worth it. She apparently started a group text with all our mutual friends with a distorted version of what happened, saying I went crazy and kicked her out. My phone blew up with messages with people mad at me, and I had to tell people what actually happened.
Royal AI.
Am I the jerk for not inviting my stepsister to my engagement party? I'm a 27-year-old woman, and my fiancé, Ryan, is 28. My parents divorced 15-ish years ago when I was 12, and my mom remarried around 2 years later to Tom. Tom has 2 kids from his last marriage, Lily and Anne. Lily's my age, but I'm a few months older than her, and we went to the same school/grade every other year since we both bounced between our divorced parents during the school year. Lily never wanted to bond with me, even with my attempts, but Anne did make an effort. I met Ryan in my junior year of high school, and we had an on and off relationship throughout school like regular teenagers, and broke up at 18, and then we reconnected years later when I was 25, and have been going strong since. So Lily hated this. Like, absolutely freaked out because she apparently never dated anyone in high school and didn't have an official relationship until late in college. In high school, I could never have Ryan or any boyfriend over to hang out because she would get insanely jealous. She made a whole scene when we went to the senior prom together. She demanded I go stag because she didn't have a date. I didn't, and you would not believe the meltdown she had when we announced our engagement through social media. Whenever I did break up with Ryan, she would rub it in my face and say I never deserved him, how he doesn't like curvy girls, I'm Latina, and stuff like that. My mum and I went through engagement invitations a few days ago, and I specifically told her that only Anne and Tom are allowed to come, and Lily is strictly not invited. Well, My mum told Tom, who got upset, and then told Lily, who then called me, and that created a whole mess. She called me absolutely furious, saying that I was insecure and that now she's going to wear white to my wedding since I want to make this about myself. I'm very upset, and my mum told me that I just need to invite Lily because we're sisters, and if I had in the first place, then this drama wouldn't have happened. I then told my mum I'm no longer contacting her until she apologised. Ryan's on my side, saying that Lily's made me miserable and to stand my ground, but Anne's told me to be the bigger person, since Lily's going through a hard time, and I've been inconsiderate with her emotions by having too many boyfriends throughout the years, and she's only had 2. I feel like everyone else is acting absolutely crazy, and I feel like I'm losing my mind with no one seeing it from my side besides Ryan. So, am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for spending money on my friends and my co-business instead of my sister's IVF funds? A. It is ridiculous that I even have to ask this question, but since everyone in my family is triggered by me, my own trust in my decisions is eroding, and I need judgment. I, 34-year-old female, have a sister, 29-year-old female, who's been battling infertility issues for the past 5 years. Since I'm not married and don't plan to have children, my parents are desperately looking to have a grandchild, and so are doing everything they can to support my sister. Some of her previous failed pregnancies were high risk, and she had to quit most of her jobs halfway after getting pregnant, and her husband makes just enough to support both of them. So, to help them financially, my parents, along with one of my paternal aunts, set up a small fund to support the IVF procedures. The thing is, at first, everyone was motivated, and since we've had about at least 25 people from the community and family who chipped in every Christmas, it was okay, and the burden didn't just fall on me. Although since the start, I was pressured into contributing the most. Over the years, many people have dropped out, and now it's just 7 of us, including me, my retired parents, and other retired aunts or uncles who don't even have 1/4 the amount to donate. Since then, it's been nothing but pressure to donate more from my side. I've stood my ground and said no, and everyone keeps guilt-tripping me. My sister keeps taking loans after loans, and I don't know, but the anger and stress of it all is being projected onto me. However, I decided that this time around, I no longer want to contribute as much. Mind you, I used to contribute upwards of $7,000 every year. After years of feeling used for money and being a doormat, I got enough and made my stand. I instead decided to start and invest in a small baking side hustle with my friend, which I kept hushed for long till we publicized our social media account. My sister found out and made a scene to my parents saying I was being cruel and greedy with my money when literally all of this, while I was the one contributing the most out of any of them. This baking side hustle has been a dream of mine since I was young, and never mind the fact that they don't want to support me because my sister's IVF issues overshadows everything. But they keep belittling my passion and efforts. Sis says that baking aspirations can be halted and continued, but she only has limited time left? What the freak? Am I the jerk here? Like, please tell me I'm not going crazy. Obviously, whatever she says, I'm sticking to my baking business, plus it's cooperated with my friend. I can't just quit the side hustle on a whim.
Am I the jerk for refusing to allow my sister-in-law and her kid to go to my vacation house with us for the week? My husband, 30-year-old male, and I, 29-year-old female, are planning a week-long vacation at my vacation home that I inherited from my parents some years back. We're leaving Friday and coming home next Friday. We're bringing my 3 kids, all boys, ages 12, 9, and 6. My husband had mentioned bringing along our mutual friends, Rob and Trish, and their 2 daughters, 11 and 7, and I was completely okay with this. I tell him to invite them, as our kids get along great and they're good company. The vacation home has lake access with canoes and kayaks and plenty of fishing and swimming areas and a nice-sized fire pit. However, they unfortunately can't make it due to work. My sister-in-law, Jen, 46-year-old female, has a 12-year-old daughter named Emma. I know I am 100% going to sound like a jerk here, but I do not like this child. And I can barely tolerate my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law raised Emma to believe she had autism. She still thinks the doctors simply don't want to diagnose her, despite them running multiple tests and stating it's truly just ADHD. Everything Emma does is excused as, well, she has autism and doesn't think or react the same way as other kids. She's a massive bully to both kids and adults. I can't even count how many times she's looked at me while I'm talking and has said, "Will you just stop talking? It's really annoying." Stuff like that. Well, last week Emma was pulled from school for mental health because she bullied the wrong kid and it backfired. So sister-in-law pulls her from school, excuses it as autism, and says she needs a much-needed mental health break. My sister-in-law knows we're going and asked my husband if they could come. So he asks me if I would be willing to let my sister-in-law and her kid tag along. And I immediately said no. Absolutely not, under no circumstances. He said he understands why I wouldn't want them to, but claims maybe being away from electronics in the city will help his niece. And I said that I wasn't willing to have a crappy time to test whether or not it helps his niece, and that this is supposed to be our break, not an added headache. His final argument was that the boys could use the company. And I laughed and said, "In what world do you think the boys would want her company, considering they don't even like going to her house?" He put his hands up and said, "All right, no problem." Tells his sister I said no, and now she's fuming at us, saying her kid needs the break and she feels like we're being unnecessarily harsh.
Am I the jerk for bringing an emotional support dog to an Airbnb and ruining the trip? I have an emotional support dog, Lucy. She isn't a trained service dog and isn't legally protected. A night when she helps me with nightmares. I have PTSD and extreme night terrors, and without my dog I'll scream and cry, but she can cue into the signs that I'm about to have a night terror and wakes me up before it gets bad. So with Lucy, I can mostly sleep, normal. Without her, it's a disaster. This past weekend, my friends rented a cabin, more like a big vacation house in the woods, for us all to hang out. There were 10 of us total. I got a ride with 2 of my friends who had been to a cabin with before. I brought Lucy last time and it was fine. No one said anything when she got in the car with us. I checked the Airbnb listing and it said pet friendly. I wouldn't have come if it said no pets, because I know my night terrors would disturb the other people. But with Lucy allowed, I would be fine, so I didn't think anything of it. But when I got to the cabin, the girlfriend of my sort of friend Jake got really upset about Lucy. Apparently she's allergic and didn't bring any allergy meds, and no one told her a dog would be coming. This was my first time meeting her, and I don't even have Jake's phone number, so I wouldn't have been able to let him know. I felt bad about it and suggested Lucy could stay outside on the patio until bedtime when she would sleep with me. But Sandra said Lucy couldn't come inside at all because of the way the cabin was kind of a loft/open plan setup. Not sure how to explain this, but it's like the bedrooms didn't have ceilings and the main roof was way higher than the rooms. I suggested I go back home, but the friends who drove me weren't willing to drive all the way back. So Lucy had to stay on the patio all night. It was terrible. I got the room next to the patio so she could sit at the sliding doors and be near me, but she'd never slept outside before, and it was in the woods with who knows what animals. I tried to sleep on the patio with her, but I was cold and uncomfortable and couldn't sleep. If I don't sleep at all, my PTSD symptoms get bad, and I become a volatile mess. So I didn't want to risk not sleeping. So I went to bed inside, but of course I had a night terror and woke up everyone screaming, twice. They were pissed the next morning. They all got together and voted me out and said I had to leave. My one friend drove me home and barely talked to me the whole time. No one's responding to my apology texts. I know it was probably a jerk move to bring a dog without checking with everyone, but I didn't know most people that well, and last time it wasn't a problem. I didn't know someone allergic was coming, but my friends all definitely think I'm the jerk, and I may have lost this friend group. Am I the jerk?
Am I the jerk for making my stepson clean the whole house instead of going to a birthday party? I, 39-year-old male, have an 11-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old stepson. They get along well most of the time, but like most kids they fight and annoy each other. My stepson developed a habit of going into my daughter's room and taking things to his room to upset her. Like a t-shirt, a favorite pen, a teddy bear, etc. I've told him to stop doing that repeatedly and told him that each time he does it, he will be punished. The first time after he took something, he was on trash duty for a week. The next time he had to wash the car, the next time he had to help me mow the lawn, which he hates, etc. He pretty much stopped upsetting my daughter after this. My wife says I'm being too strict, but I told her his behavior is unacceptable and he has to be disciplined. Yesterday was my stepson's best friend's birthday party and my stepson was really happy to go. Very excited about it. A few days before this party he entered my daughter's room and took her diary. When my daughter found out she got very upset and told me and my wife about it. My wife suggested we discipline her son by making him wash the dishes that night. I told her this has become a big problem, and just washing the dishes isn't nearly enough. We sat both kids down and I explained to my stepson that what he's doing is taking my daughter's stuff without her consent, and that is not okay. Stepson says he does it just to annoy her. I said I know, but he has to stop. He said that she annoys him too, like how she always sits in the armchair he likes the most. This was the example he gave. And I said that I know that and she's disciplined for it as well, but what he's doing is worse. I said I know they like each other and they're happy to be siblings and they're just teasing each other, but this breach of consent needs to stop. He cannot enter her room uninvited, much less enter her room and take things. Stepson yelled at me, saying this is his house. My daughter and I moved in with my wife and stepson years ago, and he'll enter the room whenever he wants. I told him, yep, that's it. He isn't going to the party and will instead clean the house with me and my wife that day. He's obviously upset. My wife says that was a jerk move of me, but I think it's the only way he'll learn.
My dad died when I was 7 years old. My mom remarried when I was 9. I'm now 16. My mum's husband, which I'll call him because I don't feel like he deserves the title of stepdad or dad, came into the relationship with some clear jealousy. He told my mum to take down all the photos of my dad in our house, bringing up that it felt like dad's house versus his, even though my mum and I had moved prior to their marriage and after my dad died. So it was never my dad's house. He then made a big deal out of me having so many photos of my family and my parents in my room. I told him I liked looking at them, and I liked having the memories near. He said I could put photos of my dad away so he wasn't intruding on our family. I told him I didn't like him, I was 9, and he wasn't going to take my dad from me. He kicked my grandparents, aka dad's parents, out of our house when I was 10, because they brought me some childhood photos of dad. He went crazy saying he didn't want photos of that man in his house. I never did forgive him for that. He told me to stop bringing up my dad. One time Mom and I were talking about Dad on his birthday, and he said it was disrespectful, and he didn't want to feel like he was competing with a ghost. My mum ended the conversation and apologized to him, but I was pissed off at him more than anything. He was such a prick to friends of our family who knew my dad. Anytime someone commented that I was getting more like him, he would scowl at them and tell them to move the conversation along. Because talking about a dead man was uncomfortable for most people. He used the line once that he was the only dad I ever had, and I told him that was not freaking true and he was never going to be worthy of being my dad. Anyway, that's a lot of background, but not all, since I don't have unlimited typing space. My mom's birthday was Saturday, and her husband threw her a party. Midway through, he gives me a gift. Inside was a photo of himself that he wanted me to put in my room and adoption papers. I tossed the adoption papers in the trash. He saw what I did, which led him to make a comment about not being able to toss away the truth. I got mad, so freaking fast. I told him to get over himself, that his jealousy and insecurity was not my problem, and I would never let him legally become my father, that I didn't even want to marry to my mum, and he was a disgusting asswipe. Everyone heard what I said. He's still furious. Mom was upset by his anger. Almost everyone left after I yelled.
Am I the jerk? I'm in the 8th grade, and we're doing senior trips all of this week. Yesterday we went to a trampoline park, but this is a throwaway, so I won't say which one. But one of my classmates wore shorts, but she has eczema and has these hyperpigmentation spots on her legs. On the right, she has this really big one, and on the left, she has multiple smaller ones. They're all healed, but it's just hyperpigmentation that's left. But another one of our classmates, who is also my friend, kept talking to me about the spots, and he even jokingly referred to them as cow spots or giraffe spots. And she heard us and got upset and told us, "Leave my legs out of your conversation. I get enough crap from strangers thinking I'll give them a disease." And my friend told her to mind her business. While I told her, if you don't want people talking about your legs, then cover them up. And one of her friends came to play knight in shining armor and said, "Cover up and die of heat stroke because it's only getting hotter here in the Bronx and no one's wearing sweats all the time." A teacher then broke it up. So am I the jerk?
My son, 15, was talking to my ex, his dad, while playing video games the other night. He rarely talks to him due to his dad not making an effort. He hasn't seen his dad in almost 3 years, even though he only lives 5 miles away. They were talking and yelling, and I walked past the living room to the kitchen to put some dishes in the sink and wash the dishes and overheard them. I told my son that when he's done playing games with his dad, to get the Coke cans from his room, so the ex knew I was in the room. Well, they keep playing, and then my son yells at his dad, "You suck worse than Kyle," over something his dad did in the game. Kyle is my boyfriend of 2.5 years. Ex asks, "Who's Kyle?" I don't talk to my ex unless it's an emergency. If he wants to talk to the kids, they're all teens and have a phone. I also don't care what they tell him as I have nothing to hide from him. I kind of just assumed they mentioned Kyle before to him. My son looks at me, I look back at him, and shrug, basically telling son to tell dad who Kyle is. My son tells his dad, "Your replacement." There's a pause. Both my son and I bust up laughing. Ex hangs up suddenly. Later, my ex messages me to complain that I was a terrible mom to allow my son to say that, and I should have told him about Kyle when I started dating him. We've been divorced 9 years. So am I the jerk for not responding? When my son called my boyfriend his dad's replacement? Oh, and then dying laughing.
Am I the jerk for disinviting a guest for my wedding? Over the color of her dress? I'm a 23-year-old female. My wedding is at the start of August, and I've been confirming RSVPs this weekend to finalize seating and catering, etc. I ended up chatting with one of my university friends, Betty, 24-year-old female, and we got onto the topic of clothes for the wedding. Betty was saying how excited she was to dress up, as she hasn't been invited to a non-family wedding before. While we're both British, Betty is ethnically white, whereas I'm South Asian. She said that she wanted to wear a sari to my wedding, so I told her a few places she could get a nice one, and she went shopping. I did tell her that red was our bridal color, so it should be avoided. In my community, you don't wear bridal colors, whatever there may be on the wedding reception itself. The sangat, mendi, etc. are different. Now she's saying that she fell in love with a red and gold sari and has bought it. I told her that's the color of my bridal gown and she needs to find another outfit. She said she's sure it won't matter on the day, but that's the equivalent of someone wearing a white dress to a Western wedding. She's refusing to compromise and change her outfit because she loves it so much and she won't have another occasion in which it's appropriate for her to wear a sari. I don't want someone wearing red and gold on my wedding day. Would I be the jerk if I uninvited her over this?
You like the way these stories are brought to you? If so, I got you covered. More like this on my channel. Thank you for staying till the end. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. See you in the next one.